nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening and welcome to the September 5th, 2018 Board of Selectmen meeting. On the agenda this evening, we have public service announcements. At 6:35, we have the fiscal year 2019 classification hearing. Then we're being asked for a concurrence with appointment for the IT specialist. At 7 p.m., we have a continuation of the gravel removal permit from Hamilton Rod and Gun Club. Then we have presentation of the Gypsy Moth Dead Tree Project by Tom Chamberlain. Then we have Sturbridge Shuttle Tours, vote to approve a license for 2 vehicles and 2 drivers. Then discussion of the the interim town administrator candidates. Then we have town administrator's update, old business, new business, correspondence, and approval of minutes, then citizens forum, then adjournment. Okay. For public service announcements, there's going to be a ribbon cutting ceremony September 18th at 8:30 a.m. at the Bay State Dental of Sturbridge, 100 Charlton Road, which is actually the center at Hobbsbrook. So people are welcome to join them and tour the place. Okay. Priscilla, any?
No.
Chase? Mike?
No.
Mary?
Oh, I just want to remind people that the half marathon is this Sunday, and there's still time to sign up right up until Saturday at noon. You can sign up online. And if you don't, want to run, you can go to the Common. There's going to be vendors, and you can cheer the runners on, and it starts at 10 a.m.
I'm up, but
And Madam Chair, I have one item. In front of you, I left you all an invitation. Today we received an invitation from the Community Food Collaborative. You may remember that last year you authorized representatives from the Rotary Club to have access to town water, to have a community garden. They had a successful year. I'm sorry? I've already turned it on. Yep, it's all set. You have to turn your computer on. You can do it now. It'll take a minute to load. Are you connected to the wire? Yeah, yes, you can. So the members of the Board of Selectmen are invited to a press event celebrating their first year on September 10th, 10 o'clock. And it's going to be in the back parking lot of Sturbridge Town Hall.
did we get a copy of that?
Yeah, it should have been on your...
On a table.
Oh, I only got the tree. Yeah, I got the tree and the,
Oh, it should have been, you should have had it. Here.
Want me to get it, Mary?
no, that's okay, I'll get it on the way out.
So you're all invited to attend. They are hoping that the Board of Selectmen will be there because I think they wish to honor the town for their commitment. And apparently the Community Food Bank has been overwhelmed with positive comments about this because the fresh fruits and vegetables that came out of that were very well received by the recipients. So.
Okay, next we have the classification hearing, and our principal assessor, Ian Murphy, and 2 of the assessors. Thank you.
Do you need any light, Ann, or
No,
is
I'm
this
all
okay?
set, thanks.
How do I turn mine on?
While this is loading, anyone who is anticipating speaking to the Board of Selectmen tonight, there is a sign-in sheet, a yellow pad. If you could just put your name and your affiliation, would be appreciative. Thank you.
In anticipation. Yeah, you want me to pass this back?
Or leave it there, it's fine.
Good evening. Okay, we're here to do the fiscal 2019 classification hearing, Town of Sturbridge. My name is Ann Murphy. I'm the principal assessor. This is Paul Murphy, our chairman of the board, and Dale Meehan is our secretary. So tonight, you're going to be voting on 4 different issues. The first will be the selection of a CIP factor. Second will be the open space discount, residential exemption, and small commercial exemption. So the fiscal 2019 tax rates stated in this presentation are proposed. They have not been certified by the Department of Revenue. We're still in the process of submitting our forms. So we have a difference in the tax amounts from fiscal 18 to fiscal 19. Values went up in the town across the board. In fiscal 18, a property that was assessed at $142,300 is now being assessed at $150,200. However, you'll see that our tax rate from fiscal 2018 of $19.44 is dropped down to $19.15. But because values go up, tax rate came down, but taxes always go up. So there's an increase there of $110.02. Again, there's another example of a property that was assessed at $237,500. It's now being assessed at $250,800, and the increase in taxes is about $185. And a third example is a property in the $300,000 range. It went up about $20,000 in value, and the difference is about $260 in taxes. So to vote on the SIP factor, and the SIP is the commercial, industrial, and personal properties. Shifting the tax burden involves the Board of Selectmen to adopt a single tax rate with a factor of 1, or to adopt a split tax rate with a lower residential factor. There were 116 of Massachusetts cities and towns last year that had a split tax rate. 88 of those had a higher SIP rate than the town of Sturbridge. The higher SIP values make it more feasible to apply a split tax rate. Our SIP value or our percentage of SIP to residential is 82% of our properties in town are residential, and 18% fall under commercial, industrial, and personal property. And the breakdown of that is about 12% is commercial, about 4% is personal property, and about 2.5% to 3% is industrial. So we have a very heavy residential percentage. So if you were to go with a split tax rate, right now the current tax rate from fiscal 18 was a single rate of $19.44. The proposed single rate is $19.15. If we went with a split tax rate at 1.05%, the residential rate would drop to $18.93, and the commercial rate would increase to $20.11. If you went at a rate of 1.10, the residential rate would drop a little bit further to $18.71, and the commercial rate would rise to $21.07. So an example of that is a residential property and a commercial property side by side assessed at $280,000. At a single rate, they would both pay $5,362 in taxes. At a split rate of 1.05, the residential property would see a decrease of $61.60 in taxes, but the commercial property at the same value would see an increase of $268.80 in taxes. If we went with the 1.10 rate, the residential property would see a decrease of $123.20 in taxes, and the commercial property would see an increase of $537.60 in taxes. So the impact of a split tax rate is it reduces the taxes for residential and open space properties, and it increases the taxes for mixed use, commercial, and industrial properties, and for taxpayers required to pay a personal property tax. We have 4,223 residential open space properties. We have 740 commercial, industrial, and personal properties. And to keep in mind, people who have commercial properties are also paying a personal property tax, so they pay twice. You will also be voting on an open space discount tonight. An open space discount allows a shift of up to 25% that can be adopted by vote of the Board of Selectmen for all property that is classified as open space. This exemption is borne by the residential classes of properties and will increase the residential tax rate without affecting the commercial, industrial, or personal property taxes or classes. So open space taxation in Sturbridge. All of our classified open space is currently under the chapter land programs of 61, 61A, and 61B. These chapter lands are assessed at 25% of their fair market value or lower. So an additional discount would really not benefit Sturbridge or the taxpayer. And this just gives you an example of how the chapter lands are taxed. A 10-acre parcel of excess land at full and fair cash value is $3,500 per acre times 10 acres is $35,000 times the proposed tax rate of $19.15. They would be paying $670.25 in taxes. The same land, if it was in Chapter 61, which is the agricultural horticultural land, would be assessed at about $154 per acre times those 10 acres, a value of $1,540 times the tax rate. They would be paying about $29.50 in taxes. And the same Chapter 61B property with a 25% discount would be valued at $875 per acre times the 10 acres, value of $8,750 times the proposed tax rate. They would pay $167.57 in taxes. That is why the Board of Assessors feel that the break is already there. There's no need to apply another open space discount. Okay. The third option you will be deciding on tonight is the residential discount. The town can grant up to a 35% discount on owner-occupied residential properties. The exclusions to this exemption are vacant residential land, seasonal and second homes, and residential properties not occupied as a primary residence by the owner, for example, rental homes, apartments, and mixed use. Something to also keep in mind is a primary residence, a primary owner under the Department of Revenue laws, they said that this residential discount may hurt some senior citizens because a lot of senior citizens are putting their properties into trusts now. And when they put their property into a trust, it takes the ownership away from them. They do not qualify as an owner unless they are a trustee of the trust and a 50% beneficiary of the trust. And we would have to get a copy of those trusts and look at them to see how they're set up. But most people, when they set up trusts, are not the beneficiary of their own trust. So according to Department of Revenue, those people would not qualify for a residential exemption if it was adopted. The impact to the overall residential class, it shifts the burden from the qualified properties onto the unqualified properties. So with this in mind, in addition to the properties mentioned above, some principal residence owners with higher values will also pay more as the residential tax rate will be higher. So going with the highest end of 35%, the exemption would be $88,909. So this amount would be deducted from the current value of a qualified property. The estimated fiscal 19 tax rate is $19.15 per thousand, and if the maximum percentage was adopted, the residential tax rate would increase to $22.27. So an example of the residential 35% exemption, a qualified home and an unqualified home valued at $254,025. Single tax rate of $19.15, their taxes would be the same at $4,864.58. For the qualified home, $88,909 would be reduced off of their value, giving them an adjusted value of $165,116. But the tax rate would change to the $22.27, so their adjusted taxes would be $3,677.14, which would be a decrease of $1,187.44 in taxes. For the unqualified home, their value would stay the same. They would see the increase in the tax rate of $22.27, and their adjusted taxes would be $5,657.14, which is an increase of $792.56. If we went with a 15% exemption, the exemption would be $38,104. Again, it would be deducted from the current value of a qualified property, and the residential tax rate would increase to $21.80. So the qualified and the unqualified home at the same value would pay the same amount in taxes, $4,864.58. If the 15% exemption was adopted, the qualified home's adjusted value would be $215,921. With the adjusted tax rate of $21.80, their taxes would now be $4,707.08. They would see a decrease of $157.50. But the unqualified home would see an increase of $673.17. So the shifting points is by adopting a residential exemption of 35%, the shifting point of value would be approximately $635,000. So about 3,017 homes could see an increase, or could see a decrease in the real estate taxes, and 1,124 of those homes would see an increase in real estate taxes. And with a 15% shifting point, the shifting point of value would be approximately $315,000. So we would only have 1,931 homes seeing a decrease, whereas 2,210 homes would see an increase. And the last exemption option you will be looking at is the small commercial exemption. You could decide annually to exempt up to 10% of the value of commercial properties that qualify. The small commercial exemption lowers taxes on properties occupied by small businesses and shifts those taxes to other commercial and industrial taxpayers. Only commercial properties are eligible. Properties must be occupied by the business as of January 1, 2018. It does not have to be owner-occupied. No more than 10 employees at all locations during the previous calendar year. The property must have a valuation of less than $1 million. And if the property has multiple commercial occupants, all occupants must be eligible businesses. So approximately 80 out of 205 businesses on a list that is sent to Sturbridge by the Department of Labor and Workforce may qualify for the exemption. The total valuation is approximately $25,745,731. A 10% shift would increase the tax rate by approximately 27 cents. Okay. So an example of the small business exemption, you have two businesses, one qualifies, one does not. So they're both valued at $379,900 with the same proposed rate of $19.15. They would both pay $7,275.09 in taxes. For the business that qualifies, they would get $37,990 off of their value, gives them an adjusted value of $341,910. The adjusted tax rate would be $19.42, so their adjusted taxes would be $6,639.90, with a decrease of $635.19. The business that did not qualify would see an increase of $102.57. Only the commercial properties can qualify, but the industrial class will share the burden. And it is the owner of the property rather than the business occupying the site that receives the tax benefit. Any sole proprietorship or partnership that does not appear on the certified list can apply directly to the assessor's office, and the assessors will make the determination whether it meets the criterion for the previous calendar year. This is a time-consuming and cumbersome process for the Board of Assessors. So the recommendations from the Board of Assessors is to vote to adopt a single tax rate, vote not to adopt the open space discount, vote not to adopt the residential exemption, and vote not to adopt the small commercial exemption. And that concludes our presentation.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from the board?
I don't.
Jason? No. Mike?
No, I'd just like to compliment the assessors team for a great presentation.
Thank you.
And I just had a question on the example for the small business exemption. the one that does not qualify,
Yep.
the increase in taxes, what did you say it was?
102.
It's
600.
not $1.
Yeah.
I know.
I was waiting to see if anybody caught that. Apparently, I was either interrupted when I was doing this screen, or I just was not hitting my numbers hard enough. But it's $102.57. Yeah. I stopped at $1, and
Yes.
I caught that when I was going.
That's what I thought happened,
And I was
but
practicing it here today, and I was going through, and I went, wait a minute, $1.
yeah, doesn't make
So
sense.
I was waiting to see who was going to catch that. I should have brought a prize or something.
I know. Okay, anything else from the board?
Is that a question?
Mary?
I assume it was unanimous. I know these are your recommendations every
yeah.
year, and nobody disagreed.
Unanimous.
No.
Yeah. We look
Town
at all the
administrator
factors.
also has the same recommendation.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have to look
Okay,
at all the
so-
factors.
We need 4 motions and 4 votes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a single,
Excuse me.
Mr. Coleman?
I don't want to remind you that we are in a public hearing, so you
Oh.
have to...
Oh, I didn't know it was a public hearing.
well, it is a
Yes.
Classification hearing.
Yeah, but it didn't say public,
Right.
because we didn't open it
Well,
with a...
minimally, you should
didn't-
close the
Oh.
public
Yeah,
hearing.
but we
maybe
didn't,
we should,
we didn't open it with a
Right.
legal notice.
Oh, that's
Well, in
true.
Mary's defense years back, remember, we used to have the whole presentation first, and then
And
the
then vote.
following week,
And
we
then vote.
voted,
Oh, all right.
if you recall.
We
No,
got away from
We
that.
don't do that no more.
No, thank goodness.
Unnecessarily
We
redundant.
did away with that.
Yes, thank you.
We're quick enough, we can get it one time through.
Right.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Okay, seeing as it is a public hearing, is there a motion to close?
I'll
So
make,
moved.
okay. Second,
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, now, Michael.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt single tax rate.
Second? Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Then next on the open space discount, is there a motion to not approve the open space discount?
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, the residential exemption, is there a motion to not accept?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It makes it easy for Jenny.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Okay, the small commercial exemption, is there a motion to not accept?
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you for coming in.
So before you leave, Ann, is there a, do we have to talk about the computer issue? We don't.
All of that.
You did?
What do you need?
I just need you guys to sign.
Excellent.
Just along here. Yeah, we solved that. It's just the assessors that have to sign that.
Oh, wonderful. Well, the members of the board,
Yeah, it was an interesting, I got an email a week ago, they implemented this new thing. They want electronic signatures on the LA side and on the recap by the board of assessors. Each one has to individually sign. And I questioned it because it says the board of selectmen that made the determination on the LA 5. And I was told by one person, oh, yes, all the selectmen have to electronically file and stuff.
which we would have to create an account for each of you and have you all come in.
Users, passwords, and all that, and I got better clarification today that no, it is just the assessors.
Okay, good.
You guys still do your physical.
Well, good for you and not so good for you.
it's a good thing.
You still do just the physical signature. I'll send.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Yes, don't want to lose it.
All right, so we
Okay.
got everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Stay cool. Thanks, Paul.
Yes. Okay, next,
Cool, I gotta go warm up. It's freezing.
When you get outside, no, it's cold in here, yeah.
it's still 85 outside and humid. Okay, next we have a recommendation of appointment for Jeremy Jalbert as IT specialist. Leon?
Madam Chair, I'd like to introduce Jeremy Jalbert, who is present here. Why don't you come up, Jeremy?
Good evening.
Jeremy has successfully gone through the process to be the town's first-ever IT specialist. He was one of several candidates who submitted application to serve the town in this newly created position that was added to this year's operating budget that started in July. We were happy to get a decent group of people who were pretty well qualified, and Jeremy kind of rose to the top, not necessarily because he's a town resident, although that doesn't work against him, but he does have some good experience in working as a network technician, but he also had worked in the Tantascwa Regional School District as an assistant there for a number of years, and has been somewhat involved with the IT department here in the town as a result of that. He has almost more than 4 years of experience in the IT field, and he really excelled in the interview process with his knowledge, and the department heads who sat in on those interviews were quite impressed as well. And if the board was so willing, I would ask for the board to concur with the hire of Jeremy Jalbert, effective September 20th, 2018, at $57,395, which is step 2 of the pay scale.
Okay, any questions for Jeremy or Leon? Questions?
No, I don't have any.
Do you have any questions of us?
No, Leon did a great job, told me everything I had to know. He spoke highly of me. Thank God you were talking about me. It was much easier to listen than for me to speak, so that was great. No, everything's great.
Oh, good. Okay, so do we have a motion then?
I'll make a motion to concur with the appointment of Jeremy Jalbert as IT specialist effective September 20th, 2018, and an annual rate of pay of $57,395.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, welcome aboard.
I will tell you that the department heads and I had our last department head meeting with me today, and we were, everyone was so happy to know that this position was being filled. And they already have a long list of things.
Don't let it
Oh, I'm not
overwhelm
surprised. I would be totally intimidated by your position.
you. Where's the plug?
I am so, I'd be like the first in line if I were staff.
The only reason the chief of police is here tonight is to make sure that he saw you first.
Okay, but speaking, well, thank you, and good luck with the job,
Thank you
and
very much.
Yeah.
any problems, see us.
Sounds
After you see Leon. Well, Leon won't be here. I'd like to keep bringing that up.
We can still call him anytime we want.
That's true.
No, I'm just,
Shall we change his phone number? Okay, speaking of appointments, the chief is here for an appointment.
I was gonna ask you that. I was just gonna ask you
Last time then.
if you could take that,
I
yeah.
don't think he wants to, no offense, Tom, listen about gypsy moth trees and everything.
Can I leave too?
Can we all go?
No, you're stuck. Chief, would you come up, please?
You don't want to owe Tom Chamberlain.
Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you very much for allowing us in. I would like to introduce formally to the board Alexis St. Francis, who is one of our part-time dispatchers. We are fortunate enough, she's another high school intern that we held on to after she graduated and got her onto a part-time job as a dispatcher. As you know through my memo, Tyler Bress, who was also a high school senior and intern, he went on to be a part-time dispatcher, a full-time dispatcher, and he just left us for a full-time police officer job with Worcester State University. So he's staying with us part-time, so we still have his services as a part-time dispatcher. However, we do have a vacancy, and the person who's next in line for that vacancy is Alexis St. Francis. She comes to us as a Sturbridge resident, a graduate of Tantascwa High School. She recently got back from U.S. Army Basic Training and Military Police School. She's a member of the United States Army National Guard out of Massachusetts here. She's stationed up at the Armory in Ware. She's also enrolled in criminal justice classes for a 5-year program up at Fitchburg State University. And she begins her classes this year up there, and we're fortunate to have her. She does come to us with some of the experience that she's already garnered, so I'd be making a request to the Chair, to the Town Administrator, to the Board, to appoint Alexis St. Francis as a full-time dispatcher on September 6, 2018, at the collective bargaining rate of a 6-month employee with the currently hourly rate of $20.20 per hour. Thank you.
Okay, questions from the board? Comments?
I just want to clarify one thing. In the documentation that you have from the chief and from me, it did say September 5th.
Yes.
But it would be
It's the 6th.
starting September
September
6th.
6th.
That was my typo, sorry.
Okay, no discussion then, does anybody?
I'd like to
Make
make,
a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen concur with the appointment of Alexis St. Francis as a full-time dispatcher effective September 6th, 2018, at a rate of pay of $20.20 per hour.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, congratulations.
Awesome.
Madam Chair, the next item on your agenda is a continuation of a public hearing for the Hamilton Rod and Gun Club. Oh,
Oh, I love your dimples.
I love it when Sturbridge residents want to
Yeah.
stay in
no,
Sturbridge.
the last 4 hires we had.
I know.
1, 2, 3, and now Jeremy.
That's excellent.
Good luck, all right?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Tom.
I'm sorry, the next item on the
That wasn't
agenda is a
Tom's
continuation of a Hamilton Rod and Gun Club gravel removal permit. I received notification that they would not be ready for tonight's continuation. Therefore, I would ask the Board of Selectmen to continue the public hearing until September 17th at 6:35.
Any comments from the board?
Make a motion that we,
Wait a minute, I just want to comment, this is the 4th continuation. Aren't they getting a little fed up with the
Well,
engineer?
I don't know, I wouldn't put all the blame on the engineer. I don't think that the two sides were talking to each other. They agreed to
Yeah.
have it continued when he
Yes.
was away on vacation, so
Yeah.
I don't know why they would have agreed to do that in the
Yeah.
first place, but.
But I know, but I don't know why they would. Wait, okay, Mike?
yeah, it is getting short time, so gee, I forgot the date that we're continuing.
September
to-
17th at
September
6:35.
I make a motion that we continue the hearing till September 13th,
17.
17th at 6:35.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Tuck that one away.
The next item on the agenda is a presentation from our tree warden.
Tom, come on down.
Is this the 2-minute one, maybe?
Yeah, I was telling him, I've told you a couple of times, 2 minutes. Oh, 2 minutes? But I figured you'd double it, because now you have the emerald ash borer.
I get 4 minutes, all right.
Oh, yeah.
Set the time.
This is,
Okay, go.
Well, if Leon has sent you all the information I sent him, you have it. Any questions?
Good job, Tom.
yeah, we saw some, we saw some dollars estimates, too.
So, as the board is aware, over the last several years, we've had a gypsy moth infestations throughout town, coupled with the drought, has left us with a significant number of dead trees and trees that need pruning that are public street trees. In an effort to quantify what that problem is and how big it is, with the approval of the town administrator, we brought in the Urban Forest Strike Team, group of trained arborists that assisted me in conducting an inventory of all the streets in town. I was assisted administratively by Rebecca DeSorsi in the planning office, using the town's GIS system to, and we brought in compatible tablets, so all of the data was collected electronically and then uploaded into our GIS system, which allows us to obviously, kind of query all of that information and what have you. So I briefly prepared 3 or 4 pages of basic information to share with the board tonight. And it's the handout I believe you were given that starts with the gypsy moth, the shaded sheets. Basically, the 4 blocks, I'll just run through them a little bit so you can understand the numbers that you're looking at. The top block is all of the dead and all of the trees that need pruning that are public trees. So that's the worst-case number of public trees, and that totals at a total of 618 trees. The next block down, and the next two blocks, is we break those numbers down into trees that are on the side of the street with no utilities versus the trees that are on the side of the street with the utility wires. And so there's no utility side. We have 400 trees. It's amazing that came out to such a round number. And then on the utility side, that number came to 218. And then the bottom block we did a quick survey of private trees, again, trying to quantify some data for National Grid. Obviously, there are private trees that hang over the utility lines, and at some point, you know, these are going to be a concern. And also, there are some private trees that hang over the public street. And at some point, those are going to be a public safety concern. So we tried to quantify those numbers a little bit. We didn't spend a lot of time looking for every tree that hung over the utility wires. We'd probably still be out there counting them. But at least trying to gather some additional data for National Grid for their benefit. And so the private trees that have hanging over the utilities came up to a total of 268, and that's a combined of the dead and the pruned. And then private trees that just hang over the street came to 87 total. And I want to get back to that number in a few minutes to the board in my presentation, so just, you know, note that on the side. On the second page, on the back, to save, even though we're going to take a lot of trees down, I'm going to try to save paper. So on the back side, you have just by species, you know, how many trees were the ash and the maples and the oaks and what have you. The third page is a picture of the whole town, and the darkened dots that you see on the streets represent where all of these trees are located. And so I think that gives you a pretty graphic picture that, with some exceptions, these hazardous trees are spread throughout the whole town. It's not just, you know, in one area or you know, several streets, but spread throughout the whole town. And then on the back of that page, the last page, this is a blow-up of the intersection of Brookfield Road or Route 148 at the intersection of Glendale Road. And again, it kind of, you know, graphically represents the density of some of these areas. How heavy, and the fine lines that you see there are the property lines, the residential property lines. Now, the dots aren't exactly located right because we didn't spend the time to geospatially, you know, adjust them exactly. But when we collected the data, we indicated, based on our best estimates and working with our town, with Greg, our DPW director, you know, how wide are the street right-of-ways and what have you. And so we gathered that information. So we do have a breakdown of public and private. Even though the dots may not necessarily agree, it's because of, you know, just the, you know, being out there in the tree canopy and the accuracy of the GIS. We didn't take the time to really, you know, correctly all of these dots for the purposes. So the next step of this, now that we have, a couple things. We actually counted a total of 973 trees in total. The survey was done over 4 days in the month of July. We had 10 crew days. A crew was a 3-person team. And over those 4 days, we actually had a total of 10 crews out surveying the town. There was no cost to the town for this work. Short of our own internal costs for the GIS system and building the app and that type of thing, but that's all covered under existing contracts that the planning board has in place for you know, maximizing our GIS capability. I have started some tree removal with this year's budget. It costs on average $2,300 a day. $1,900 of that, and that round number, okay? $1,900 is the tree crew truck and chipper, a two-man crew truck and chipper. That's our bid rate. And then it allocates $400 a day for the police detail. Obviously, I'm working on the more higher, traveled streets, the busier streets, where from a public safety perspective, that's where we should be focusing our initial efforts. So that, averages $2,300 a day just for the crew and the detail officer. Additional costs beyond that, at some point, we'll be picking up some of this wood. So far, most of it has been disappearing, but, some of the larger trees that are 5 and 6 feet in diameter, we haven't taken down yet, and I don't think anybody's going to be picking those up anytime soon, unless Chase goes by with his big loader, because that's the kind of equipment you need. So anyway, I've been slowly working on this, although I'll be honest with the board, it's been a little challenge now that the police chief has left, getting detail officers. And I've already had to cancel 5 scheduled crew days because we couldn't get a detail officer. A little concerning, but again, I know there's a lot of things happening and it's vacations, and so hopefully as we get into the fall, that problem will work itself out and we'll be able to go a little further. My budget is just under $20,000, so at $2,300 a day, you can see I don't have a lot of days of tree crew. And I've discussed this with the town administrator of putting in for a transfer of emergency funds, reserve funds, in an amount of $27,600, which will buy me 2 days of tree crew for approximately 6 weeks, which would bridge the time from when I run out of my fiscal year 19 funds to the potential scheduled town meeting. And then, obviously I'd have an article at the town meeting to be acted on, and once that's done, then we can continue on with the process. The reason why I'm doing this is because while the leaves are on the trees, it's the most efficient way. Because it's obviously very visual, what is dead and what is not. Once we have fall and we get into November and the leaves fall, the work can continue, but it slows down a little bit in that, now the crew has to be a little more inspecting the limbs, especially the pruning trees. Each limb now will know, and an arborist will know it's a good limb or a dead limb. But there's the chance that we could miss 1 or 2 as we go through that process. So I'm just trying to maximize basically the most opportune time to try to get as much of this on our busiest streets as possible. So that's the story there. What is this all going to cost? So there was another handout that I prepared. And I came up with 3 cost scenarios. The first one is for the removal of all the trees and all the trees needing to be pruned without National Grid participation. I am pushing National Grid as hard as I can to have them come in and be responsible for the trees that are on the utility side of the road. But this is not the only community they have this problem in. So, I did get an email from them late this afternoon. It hit my box, but I haven't had time to look at it and see what their reply is. But I'm hoping for somewhat of a favorable reply. I did meet with them last week, about an hour and a half, going over the list and all the data we collected and with their arborist. And I feel comfortable that we'll get a positive response, but she could not, she says, I got to, this is our problem. It's, whatever we do in Sturbridge, it kind of sets the plate for what we're going to do in all the other communities, not only in Massachusetts, but they have a gypsy moth problem, a severe problem in the state of Rhode Island, where National Grid also covers, most of the state for the utility. So anyway, the worst case scenario is the number 1 proposal there, which comes out to $500,000 or $500,000. It is a quote from Northern Tree, our current,
Can I just interrupt for 1 second, please? Does anybody have that?
No, not that.
I
thought
had
it was
gotten the
this one.
email with the numbers
It's in the
on it, but
mailboxes.
It was a late edition.
It's in the
It's in email?
mailboxes.
It's in the mail?
it's in, yeah, oh, it's in our mailboxes.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, it's always nice to see
Yep.
when somebody's
Yeah.
talking about something.
Hold on for a second, she had put, we got it as an email yesterday, so.
Oh, Tom, while she's doing that, you said 2,300 per day,
yes.
and what was the breakdown on that?
The breakdown was 1,900 for the tree crew.
Okay, that's the, no, that's the part I missed.
$400.
Yeah.
Now, the 1,900, it's 18,000,
Yeah, no, no.
$1,880 or
Yeah.
something like that.
No, I just missed that.
And the police detail, the highest officer, ranked officer, because of the contract we pay, per their pay rate, for municipal details is like $380 for the day. So I just plugged in a $400 number.
Can,
Yeah, now, Leon, on that, are we obligated to have police details?
Well, no, it'll be up to the chief. If there's a location on a busy road and we have to close down a portion of the road or it becomes a safety hazard. But if there's a side street or a back road that there's not a lot of traffic, the chief has the discretion to say that one's not needed.
Yeah, because I know in the whole state, it's not mandated that police details.
No,
do
but we would defer to the chief. I mean, if we had a major road, where there would be
No, no,
a potential
that's,
for.
that's understandable, but I mean, if there's some way to save some money.
Yeah.
So, Mary, I did take that into consideration in these numbers. It's, I have been doing this for a number of years, so I'm comfortable knowing which streets are needed a detail and which aren't. However, on those, the other argument, the other side of that story too, is when we don't have a detail officer and we're relying on the guy in the bucket and his ground man, and his ground man is, really his purpose is to watch the guy in the bucket and not watch the traffic. And sometimes, you're taking a limb down that's hanging over the street. So, they've now got to it slows their productivity down because now they're kind
Well,
of doing,
that's understandable,
detail
but,
work,
there's nothing the matter with
Through the-
civilian flaggers.
yeah,
So, yes, however, when I reached out to several civilian companies, their costs are like $10 less than we pay our officers. They know what we pay, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
so, again, we and I don't know that we have a contract in place. And again, the numbers we're talking here, we clearly have to contract, which maybe we'd get a better price. I'm not opposed to that, I'm just saying, I went with the basic information. I mean,
can I ask you this, do we have town employees that are certified flaggers?
we do. That's, again, that's going to be, when they're out flagging these crews, don't get me wrong, they're not out patching potholes or mowing grass or doing
Yeah.
all the other things that you ask of your DPW to. Again,
But we just added quite a bit of staff to the DPW that they've been, so, and the other question about use of police details is that there are guidelines now for where police details are required, and generally, if the average daily traffic volume is over 4,000 vehicles per day, then you need a detail. If it's under 4,000 vehicles per day, you can use a flagger. And Brookfield Road would be a good example where you would need a police detail. Glendale Road, you'd need a flagger.
Glendale Road, the upper end, I probably wouldn't even get a detail.
Yeah.
But again, and again, that as your tree warden, I know that, I understand that. It's just that in presenting a budget figure, if I'm going to err, I'm going to err on the side of being a little higher, because, once the town votes this money, if I run out, that's not going to be good on anyone's part. And so that's my fear of, not that I want to over-ask, but, again, that, as you note, this, says proposed. So it's a proposal.
Yeah.
I'm open to suggestions, changes, whatever. It's something to put out before, to get
Right.
thinking about and
Yeah, I agree with Mary. It's worth looking into flaggers. Generally, they've been trained to put out this. I'm more concerned about making sure there's adequate safety signage around your work zone, so that somebody driving by will slow down and hopefully
yes.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Okay.
have a safe work zone.
To try to stay under the 4 minutes.
Oh, you're well past it.
Are we talking minutes or hours at this point?
Don't give them any ideas.
Anyway, so the northern tree estimate is based on their cost estimator looking at the total number of trees by size class. And, with their history of working for utility companies that routinely bid that way, the work by size class, they provided that number, and so that's, one company, one number, there it is, I plugged it in. From that number, we added an additional $10,000 for wood disposal costs, because that was not figured in their bid. At the end of the day, yes, we'd like to give the wood away and not have a disposal cost, but even at some point, I still have to have a log loader pick it up and bring it somewhere. So that's, the disposal cost there. And then again, my estimate for the total number of days that we would need a police detail was, in that case, the worst case scenario was 165 days. Okay, and that is truly an estimate based on how many trees they can get down a day, kind of multiplied out. On some streets, again, this varies from street to street. When you've got a large tree on someone's finely manicured lawn, it's going to take a lot longer time to get that tree down and cleaned up than if it's on a back road and they can just literally drop the brush in the woods and cut it up and it lays there and they don't even have to chip it up. So, the time frame varies from street to street. And again, you got to remember, this includes trimming the trees over the wires, and that alone just adds extra time because, now the tree pieces have to be much smaller. They must, the guy's got to kind of, watch how he drops it because he obviously doesn't want to drop it on top of the wires. So, that removal takes longer than if the tree was not over wires. So all of these things, kind of play into the overall picture here, in one part or another. Number 2 is my estimate.
Tom, excuse me again.
We don't
We
have it.
still don't have that one. We've got this. We don't have a
We don't have
nice
that.
little table. Oh, no, that's okay.
No, it
It's-
did come, we did get an email on it, I know, because I remember seeing it.
Email? I didn't get one.
I don't remember that. That's what I'm just checking now. I don't remember it.
Now, Tom,
It was
theoretically,
something I finished over the weekend and sent to Leon, so, I
now
wanted to
theoretically,
get it out as soon as I could. but,
Right.
No, it's, don't worry.
you're waiting on a response from National Grid because technically the trees that are hanging over the utility lines would be their responsibility, correct?
That would be my strong argument. They come before this board and say they want permission to place and maintain their wires. So I would clearly say that, the tree removal becomes part of a maintenance issue. What they would like to do is, the discussions I've had, was they would provide the crews and the equipment to get the trees on the ground, whether that be, the bucket truck or crane, depending on the uniqueness of the situation. They would get they would get the trees on the ground, chip the brush.
Yeah.
But the town would have to provide the police detail and haul away any remaining wood that's, not taken away by the abutter or what have you. So that's kind of the proposal where we're at right now.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that, that's been their kind of basic practice.
Yeah.
I think what it is they're just, they're a little gun shy in the fact that this is a pretty substantial system-wide problem for them. And they're just, I think the upper echelons of National Grid just haven't been fully briefed as to, how much of a budget buster this is going to be for them in their tree department, never mind everything else that's going on that they need to do. So again, I was, they promised me an answer. I got it just about a half an hour before I came here before the board, and I wasn't even going to get into without looking at it first. So, anyway, so now you have the three scenarios in front of you, and I apologize on that. So scenario number 2 is, again, I looked at the estimate from Northern Tree and felt that there were efficiencies of savings based on the fact that they were looking at all the trees being over the utilities and not the split, as I referred to in the first page in these shaded blocks. Okay? So I took the time and kind of recalculated using their numbers, knowing my experience, et cetera, working with them over the many years, and got that figure down by $100,000. So this figure, if National Grid was to say, no, we're not doing anything, this number of 400,000 would be the number we'd be looking at as a total package. The third is if National Grid comes in and agrees to do their part of the deal, that adjusts those numbers down accordingly, with the exception of we still need to provide a police detail. So I've, built that back into the budget to, do that, and that drops the number down, as you see, to a total of $285,000. And that would address all of our trees that are non-utility and provide the police detail and the log loader to pick up the debris to partner with National Grid for them to do their total of 218 trees. That would be So those, again, these are proposed numbers. I'm putting them out there. I know Leon's leaving, but at some point I need to have an article ready for the special town meeting with a number. So what this number, now if I could get back up a little bit, if you remember I said keep that 87 number of trees that are private trees. These numbers I quoted you do not address the town trimming private trees, the portions that are hanging over the public street. And the question is that something you want to have done or not? I can tell you that private trees, and you can check with Greg if you want, and I'm sure he will back me up. 90% of the tree problems that we have when, we have trees that fall and take utility wires down, they are not town trees, they are private trees. Homeowners do not take care of their trees. It's a fact, okay? My concern is we're gonna have these dead limbs, for the most part, hanging over the streets, and sooner or later, they're gonna start falling down on the streets, and, our luck's gonna not, we may be playing the lottery on this one and win a few, but, when we lose one, it's we're gonna be on the 5 o'clock news in Boston and all of that stuff. Never mind, the personal injury and what have you that could go along with it. I'm not trying to make an argument, but my jurisdiction is public trees. And this goes a little bit beyond that. It is public streets. And I'm looking for, how does the board feel we should address some of that?
Well,
I have a question.
oh, go ahead.
The private trees hanging over the public way, which this doesn't include, would any of them involve National Grid having to, if they're hanging close to utility-wise?
Mary, if you look at that bottom box.
Right.
There's 2 columns, and it says private trees with utilities. So that's a total of 268.
Okay.
And those are the ones that National Grid may or may not be addressing.
Okay, so that's
Okay.
contained in the quote
Right, and
for
then
285.
the other one says private trees, no utilities.
Okay, sorry, I didn't look at it.
That's the one where,
Right,
if we
that you're
don't
talking
do
about.
it, I don't know, how do you, there's no real way that I'm aware of. I mean, we could send homeowners letters and put them on notice, but, again, like I said, I'm putting it out there as, what are your thoughts? How do you want to try to address this, if at all?
How much would it increase
Well, that's what
by
I was just
roughly?
going to say. Do you
A
have
rough, a guesstimate. you know?
My guesstimate for the 87 trees, based on the size class, we're probably talking an additional 23,000, I'd say about 10 days of tree trimming, you know. And again, I'm going to throw in a police detail just because without really analyzing where they're all located, so I'm going to say about $23,000 additional cost.
Tom, if the town voted to do this.
23,000?
23,000, yeah. 10 days at the $2,300.
Tom, if the town voted to do this, I know it's just an estimate, but how far down the road would we be taking care of as far as this danger?
So the trees are dangerous now. They're all dead.
Yeah.
They're all
Yep.
there now.
Right.
So this would be some type of a continuous program through the fall. We might suspend it during the winter, depending on the kind of winter we get.
No, like once we cut them, like 5 years down the road, 10 years, do they grow back? Like, how often would we have to do this, I guess?
Oh, this is short of another gypsy moth infestation.
And is it gone now, or?
Well, not really, no.
Yeah, all right, that's right,
It's
yeah.
not as bad.
Yeah, it's not as bad, yeah.
We still have,
This is a natural disaster that once we address these trees,
Yeah.
unless there's a reoccurring or another natural disaster, we're done.
Okay.
Okay, now, trees in general are a living thing, so that's why I have an annual budget that,
Yeah,
trees
you-
die, trees grow, branches break,
Yeah.
So there's an annual budget there. This will address, obviously, a number of trees that probably were already partially in decline. That's why some of them died. Again, I could spend 4 hours just on tree growth,
I don't think that's in their cards.
Right, I don't think so.
We don't want to.
But, basically, this is a kind of one and done unless there's another issue that comes up, which is what I'm going to talk about next. But, the gypsy moth population really collapsed last year. We saw some gypsy, it's always been around. It never 100% goes away. That's why it built up 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Because there were certain environmental conditions between lack of rain, not fostering the natural fungus that controls it, and the drought. They all kind of worked against us here in Sturbridge and in a number of communities around us, too. So it wasn't just unique to Sturbridge, but,
Okay, so Tom, you're going to be requesting a reserve fund transfer, right?
I would, yes.
And then
And
you'll
that would
have-
come off
yeah.
of whatever number we agree, because
Right.
that's work we're doing.
Right, and then you'll have really firmer numbers for a warrant article
For
for
warrant,
this
yeah,
special.
I will, we'll try to figure out what it might cost for flagmen, whatever. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a person of, one.
Yes, okay, so any other questions on this, Mike?
I was going to back up on Chase's question about, how long ago was the last gypsy moth infection?
It was in the
Infestation.
early 80s.
Yeah, so it's,
I don't recall it being as bad in tree mortality, but I wasn't that was just before I became tree warden, so that's a little bit before my time, as they say.
yeah.
I just don't remember that type of mortality, not to say there wasn't some. I think what exacerbated the issue is the drought. So if you're one of these years, I think it was 2015, we ended the year with a rainfall deficit of over 9 inches, which is approximately 20% of our annual rainfall.
With no leaves on the trees to hold moisture.
Right, so, that combined with the total defoliation, the roots in the ground just didn't have the moisture to be able to put back into the leaves, and that stressed the trees, and then the following year, another defoliation, and so the leaves aren't there doing their things, creating the sugars and starches, and it just, it was a little bit of a snowball effect there that created the problem that we have now. I mean, it's all beyond our control. Nothing we really could have done one way or the other to,
So it's something that happens once every 40 years or something like that.
Yeah, I just hate that it happened on my watch, really.
It is your fault.
Yeah, you got a big bank account? You pay. Okay, the
Okay.
Emerald Ash.
So, yeah, the other good news is, proverbial when it rains, it pours. As the board knows, I've been before, several years ago, I raised the concern of an insect called the emerald ash borer. Basically, Leon, did they get a copy of my press release?
Yeah, they did.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I prepared a basic press release, and I'll just kind of run over that real quick. Basically, the bug was found in Detroit, Michigan, back in 2002-ish or so. It's an insect from Asia that came over in packing material. I think we've all kind of heard that story before with the Asian longhorn beetle. There is no natural control for it in the United States. The good news is, for the most part, it only affects ash trees. It does kill a couple other ornamental trees, but ornamental trees that we don't normally see here in New England. They're more of a southern nature tree that we don't have normally up here in New England. So the simple thing is it affects our ash trees, and it affects all of the ash, the green ash, the white ash, and the black ash trees, all of which are native forest cover here in New England. There is some research going on with parasitic wasps that will control and slow down but not eliminate the infestation. Right now, the best, if you wanted to preserve a tree, the best and only treatment is a insecticide injection into the soil. There is one you can inject into the tree, but again, you're doing damage to the tree. So the best of them is into the soil, where it's taken up by the root mass and protects the tree internally. I proposed several years ago a multi-fiscal year strategy. The town funded the first year of that strategy and then did not fund the following years of increasing or ramping up for this day to come. We knew it's coming. This year, Sturbridge is the 20th community this year alone where the confirmation of the emerald ash borer has been made by the state. Prior to that, the biggest year was 5 communities. It was first found in Massachusetts in 2012 in the town of Dalton out in the Berkshires, and is now in all of the counties in Massachusetts, I believe, with the exception of the Cape. Has yet to have an emerald ash borer detection. So the bottom line is the insect is here. It's going to take a few years for it to, really be a concern as to tree health. So we're now going to have a wave of ash trees dying in the town. The good news is, based on my tree inventory, we know we have approximately 320 odd ash trees. I've been taking some down, so that number's been dropping, slowly over the last couple years. That we'll need to, at some point, if all we're going to do is let the bug kill them and then take them down, that's our worst case scenario, is 300 trees. So not that that's a good news, but it's going to, and that will be spread out over a 4-year to 5-6 year period. So it won't be all dead in 1 year like we're seeing with the gypsy moth this year. So we can kind of spread that out in my budget, on a fiscal year basis, that type of thing, which is what I had originally proposed. But, here it is. So the other thing I would like to do, and I've talked to Leon, I would like to put it out tonight to, following a issue several years ago, the town created a committee called the Tree Wardens Advisory Committee. And the committee was set up at the time to work with me as a tree warden as a community liaison kind of group where residents, could look at the issues and provide advice and guidance and direction, to me as tree warden, saying, well, here's what we think, should happen, and, assist with planting and education and what have you. It ran good for a couple of years. We had one resident move out of town. It's scheduled to be a 5-person committee. We had one resident move out of town. We were unable to fill that spot. and then we had 2 other residents step off to move on to other interests in the town, and that left me with just 2 people for the committee of 5, so it was really non-functioning. We struggled to find a 3rd person, and then we just kind of let it die a natural death. But given this situation here, I think it's a perfect place to have an active advisory committee working with the other residents, because everyone in town that owns any kind of property has ash trees. And they're going to be looking, what are my options? What can I do? Maybe there's some ways, we can, kind of partner and collaborate together, residents, put neighborhoods together to try to address this problem in their neighborhoods and all their backyards, that type of thing. And again, this to me would be a perfect place for an advisory committee to kind of help, steer some of that through. So I would really reach out to the residents of town that are concerned about trees. I could use your help, and if you're interested, please put an application in with the town administrator so we can move that forward.
I hope you have better luck than we have on other committees.
Well,
It's like pulling teeth.
Maybe-
Well, you never know what people's interests are,
That's
so.
I'm hoping it's
Yeah.
like, that they see the community need and we'll step forward hopefully and, want to participate. It's clearly a different part of government that, not every, not your normal day-to-day, sitting at a board and, dealing with all of the other pressing issues of the day for a town.
Okay.
Might appeal to people, actually.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments or questions for Tom?
So I did give you some additional, informational handouts.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to reach out to Bruce at the cable TV, and maybe we'll do a little video, and we can get something, out in the community, both on the gypsy moth, tree issue and the emerald ash borer, do a couple live shots underneath a dead tree with my hard hat on or something, But,
Okay, thank you, Tom, and good luck with all your figures.
How do you, if I could, Mary, and I don't need an answer tonight, but I'd like to know where the board feels on dealing with the private tree issue, trimming those trees?
Well, I personally have no problem with trimming if they're dangerously overhanging the
Trim
road.
what's over,
What's
is
overhanging.
trim what's over
Yeah.
the street. It doesn't fully eliminate the problem, because the
No,
tree
but
could
that's-
still fall into the street.
Yeah,
But at
that's
least,
the homeowner's
Right.
responsibility,
Right.
not ours. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Again,
think
I
we
don't
should
need an
do
answer
what,
tonight
no,
if
yeah.
the board-
Personally,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
could, but we
I-
can take a vote on it.
If you want us to go
anytime.
down the line, I
Yeah.
agree with Mary. At a minimum, I think you said it was 23,000.
Yeah.
And, when we're talking about this kind of money, let's just do it all at once, because I can envision people coming in, if we don't, too, saying, isn't it the town's, I'm not saying it is, but isn't it the town's
phone's already
responsibility?
ringing off the hook.
When they see, because it's in the public way. And so I would be in favor of removing, pruning.
Yeah, a tree branch, dead tree branch overhanging a public way or even a private way in town is a public safety hazard, and it's a dangerous tree is the term you use. And absolutely, it's the responsibility of the tree warden and board of selectmen to make sure that the public safety is done. So I would be supporting, at the very least, cutting what's overhanging the public way. Going on to private property is a whole nother ball.
That's a
of
whole
wax.
nother ball, yeah. And I am not advocating or
No,
even
no,
asking
it's-
for that at
You've
this
got that
time.
right in
It's
here.
the overhang.
Yeah. Chase?
I agree, just the overhang.
Okay, so.
Same.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion then to have Tom add this amount of money into his overall estimates?
My estimate,
Yeah, but, and then, later on, we'll
So moved.
have
Second?
discussion in favor.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
good
you.
luck figuring out and you owe us time.
And,
I only come once a year?
and you don't,
Don't be too fresh, Tom, but you make up for it.
oh, that was,
Oh, I've known Tom long.
you two I wouldn't be able to get away with that kind of statement, but, and when's the
Your
last,
coffee's on a Wednesday
I know.
morning.
when's the last time you had a committee that helped you, a tree warden advisory committee?
How long
No,
ago?
yeah, how long ago? A number of years.
I'm going to say that
Five?
probably was back around 2008 or 9, maybe 10.
Okay.
Go back.
Yeah.
It's been a while, yeah.
So are we going to put something out? Or, I don't know about you, but somebody to,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I didn't know we don't need a motion for
I
that.
mean, we have it, it's a bylaw.
No, I understand, it just has been unfilled
Yeah.
for many years, several years. Okay.
Well, it's been inactive, so then.
Right.
It's been inactive, and
Yeah.
isn't, it wasn't something I, blamed some of
Needed.
that on me, that I wasn't here banging the table and
Well, you d-
advocating.
you didn't need it
Right,
like you do now.
right.
Okay, Tom,
Thank you all.
have a good night. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a livery license request for a vehicle and 2 drivers. Would you come forward, please, and introduce yourselves? If anyone's interested, that was 40 minutes over the 4.
He thought it was 4 times 10.
I just remind you to sign the yellow sheet if you
We're
haven't.
doing good until then.
Okay, could you please
Hello,
introduce
everyone.
yourself?
My name is Greg Abdullah, and this is my wife, Stacy Abdullah. And we are here in regards to Sturbridge Shuttle Tours livery service that we are looking to open up. What would you like to know?
Well, I personally would like, where are the vehicles going to be housed, garaged, or
Understood. So they'll be at our house. We live in Holland. Yep. And good-sized house. We can park over 8 vehicles at our location. I'm kind of from the industry. I work for the government. I work with city, town, first responders with their fleets for safety and driving and traffic control. Been doing that for 10 years with the government through AT&T. My wife works for Whitewater. You might have heard of them.
Yes.
Okay, great. So that's what we do. Our hours of service that we're looking to do this is Saturdays and Sundays, dealing with just 3 locations. It's not going to be a hop-on, hop-off service in any way. We will be picking up families and bringing them either to Old Sturbridge Village, picking them up 2 different times during that day, bring them back to their hotels. We will be shutting down at 5 o'clock every day. We are not going to do anything with craft beer runs or anything like that. That's not our interest. It's just picking up families and moving them to that location. That'll be one of the options. The other option will be taking them shopping. So down to the Sturbridge Peddler, down to the Sturbridge Flea Market. Same thing, 2 different times, pick up, drop off, and then bring them back to their hotels. The other package that we have discussed is working with one of the orchards during that season to pick them up, bring them to the orchard for half a day for the hay rides, apple picking, and then bringing them back to their hotels. Everything will be done, we'll be off the streets by 5. That's Saturday and Sunday.
okay. The application, though, has 8 to 4.
Yeah, so some of them, like some of the locations, not Sturbridge Village, but some of the shopping locations, people might want to be dropped off earlier. We might be on the street, depending on where the hotels are in Sturbridge, to pick them up and get them for a breakfast to drop off near that location. And that's why we put in 8 o'clock.
Well, I meant the 4 o'clock, when
Yeah,
you've been saying
4
5. I mean, we
so-
can put 5.
Yeah, so we hope to be home by 5.
Yeah.
But
Blame you.
most families, when we did our research, like to be going out to dinner at 5 o'clock. So getting them back between 4:30, no later than 5 seems to be the right thing to do.
Okay, so do you want to leave it at 4 or put 5?
According to the 3 hotels I talked to just recently, most people are back by 4:30, so if I could do it to 5, that'd be great,
Yeah, I mean,
just to cover us.
right. Don't want you to get a ticket for,
Now, if you, according to the chief, both of us have never had any type of moving violations.
Right, yeah,
I came out of the
chief.
military, we don't play,
Yeah.
that's not us.
okay, any questions from the board? Mike?
Yeah, I was just curious, and in the liability insurance, does our regulations, or does state, are there any regulations on the amount of liability? I know they have it for hired vehicles and so forth, so they've got a commercial liability insurance.
It
which
is higher, yeah, so the state regulations and your town are in line with that. I deal with this all the time in selectmen meetings. This
Okay.
is not new for me.
I was just questioning it.
Yeah, so it's a higher one, actually, the 500, 100,000. I think that's what you're looking at. Is that what's in there?
It's one and 3.
1.5 or 1 and 3?
1 and 3, it says here.
Yep, 1 and 3. So depending on the amount of people and the size of that livery vehicle, our vehicles aren't going to be any bigger. Our intention is to keep no more than a 12-passenger. Anything bigger on the streets in Sturbridge is going to be a mess, especially when you're moving that many people.
Yeah. It's the 3 that I was, 1 is pretty common, but for a vehicle with, 12 passengers or something, was expecting like 1 and 5 or something like that.
Yep.
And that's why I brought it up as a question.
It's good.
But if we don't have any say over it, it is what it is.
I don't have any questions, but I think it's an excellent idea, and I wish you luck.
Yeah.
It's a,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You could be helping us out really good with tourism and
Yeah,
so forth.
we've gotten a lot of great feedback on it. We're both kind of military kids, brought up in the military, and what I do with the government, like I said, I deal with towns all the time with fire, police, and traffic, and I've got a view into this town through my job to see what traffic flows are, and when the times are, when it really gets jammed up, when people are arriving and where they're going and things like this. And I think we're going to help a lot. I really do with the traffic.
have you
that's
been well received by the hotels?
Wow. Yeah, and we're not knocking or looking for anything. We just want to move
right.
people around. We're not looking for, hey, come to our location. None of that. That's not how we're looking at this. It's, yes, it's a business, but at the same time, all our analysts, we're only doing 10 miles. If you look at one end to the other. We want nothing to do with the flea markets. We want nothing like that. Keep it right here. Simple pickup, drop off. That's it. So yeah, we're excited.
Sounds good.
We're excited.
Okay, anything else? Somebody want to make a motion then?
Madam Chair, just before you do that, I thought the applicant said he was looking at doing this on Saturday and Sunday, but the application says Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing it Fridays.
No Fridays.
No, Saturdays and Sundays,
Okay.
Okay,
please.
let's scratch that.
Scratch Friday.
Saturday, Sunday, 8 to 5.
Yeah, we're both kind of directors
Still
at our
working?
jobs. So we can't do that on Fridays.
You don't have that many vacation days.
So the license will be Saturday and Sunday, 8 to 5.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion then for the one vehicle and the 2 drivers as listed? Greg and Stacy Abdella?
For Saturday and Sunday, 8 to 5.
5, right.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay,
Great.
thank you and good luck.
Thanks. Can I ask another question?
Sure.
So with our research, we've already got people calling us. What would the process be for us to add another vehicle? Same thing, come to you, bring you the application
Yeah.
with the insurance, everything like that, get it labeled. Okay, so that's great. The other thing was the chief wanted some sort of name on the side of the vehicle that said something about Sturbridge. So I was going to use our logo of Sturbridge Shuttle Tours and then our phone number on each side of the vans. And I'm hoping that's okay for protocol.
Have to look at the sign bylaw thing.
Yeah, because it was kind of
Not in the
strange. It was
vehicle?
a
No.
gray
I haven't
area.
looked at that. No, I don't know if it's gray.
If it's on a vehicle, there's no,
The sign by law, it says, I know I've dealt with other ones where you can advertise on vehicles, so I don't think it'd be a problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I think a parked vehicle, because we had problems years ago with,
Well, if this is a parked vehicle, they're not making very much
Yeah.
money. so.
no, I know, with a parked vehicle that was advertising it.
yeah. Years ago, you used to have DPU plates for your kind of
I gotcha.
operation.
Not livery.
And that required that you have the phone number and the town that the business is operated in on
Okay.
the side of the door.
Okay. Well, we're going to
So-
put that on there anyways.
Yeah.
I just think it's a good thing to do. All right,
Okay,
great.
so, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I bet you know a lot now about trees.
I know a lot now.
We're sorry
More than
about
you
that.
wanted to know.
Thank you again.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have a discussion of the interim town administrator candidates.
So, Madam Chair, you have received from our office all of the candidates for the interim town administrator position. We have sent those to you, and you folks have sent us back your individual thoughts about each of the candidates. And we have presented to you folks a ranking, or not a ranking, but a tally sheet of the the candidates that step forward and their level of support among the Board of Selectmen. And Janae and I stand ready to work with you to schedule candidate interviews per your requirements. So we're hoping to get some feedback from you tonight as to how many you wish to interview, who those candidates are, and when would you like to do that?
Okay, Mary?
I just want to clarify, Mike, because I noticed, what's interesting, we all either are 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 at a minimum when I look at each of our choices. You know, we at least agree 3 out of 5 times, or 4. But I notice it's not alphabetized, so I just want to clarify that perhaps I misunderstood, but mine are not in order.
None of them are.
None of them are.
Okay.
They're
I
not-
wasn't sure
yeah.
because, you know, for example, Michael Hartman's listed all in different places, so I didn't know if others
No, we
listed
didn't.
them
I
1
just
to
typed
5.
it in the way I was given it.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
to
So
make-
I just gave my top 5.
Yeah, they're not
Okay.
prioritized.
I didn't have any particular either.
Okay, I just got confused because they're all mixed up.
Okay, so now, how many would we be comfortable interviewing? We don't want to interview them all.
No, I
I'd
don't
be
think so.
comfortable with 3.
3? Yeah, 3 or 4, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think Michael had a reason he'd like 4.
Okay.
No. Well, no, I said,
3?
yeah.
He just didn't want it to be
3 is
one.
fine with me.
Oh, he didn't want it to be 1, okay.
Because I
don't
mean,
want just one.
if we go to 4, we actually should go to 5 because
You got 2 3s.
then we have 2 3s, Pam LaDuke as well as William Ross. If we go with 3, we have a 5-4-4,
3's fine with me.
you know? I don't know.
I was trying to think the last time when we interviewed, when Suzanne was here, I know for sure we interviewed 2.
And her 3.
3, that's right, the guy from Rhode Island. And when Jim left, I vaguely remember it was only 1 we interviewed.
I wasn't.
I know it's
It's before
I think
us.
3 breaks down nicely because 2 people got 4 votes and 1 person got 5. You know, and then if one of them backs out, then we can move on to the 2 that got 3 votes.
Yeah, so 3 sounds
That's an
good.
option.
3 highest votes, so that would be Theodore Kozak, Michael Hartman, and Brian, and I still can't say his name even though I interviewed him before.
I think it's Palea.
Oh, yeah, yes, yes.
Michael Hartman.
How's that sound to the board?
Good.
Okay, now, when?
No.
We had a lot of good applicants.
On the 10th,
You think?
yeah. I guess, yeah. Okay, anyway, on the 10th, we're just, the only meeting we have, if, I'm just asking, is just interviewing the citizens
For the search
and the
committee.
department heads who did for
Search
search committee. Okay.
Right,
All right. That's the only item on the agenda, basically?
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
yes. Now, today being a Wednesday, because we had the holiday thrown in, ooh. Gotta get back to the right month.
We're going to
Of
interview.
course, most of these, 1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
2 are local. I'd have to look. Where's Hartman from? Canton? Is that Canton? I forget,
Hartman.
Canton,
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's the furthest. But
yeah.
would the board, Priscilla, you're busy Tuesday and Thursday nights, right?
Not yet. Th-
Oh, not
That
yet.
part hasn't started yet, so I'm still open for that.
Tuesdays would be very difficult for me. I can do any other day, but Tuesdays would be tough.
Oh, okay, because I was trying to think if we could do it the 11th.
How about the 12th?
The 12th is
Can you do the 12th?
On a
Can you do
Wednesday?
I
Wednesday?
knew as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a doc there, but that's just a hair appointment.
In the
You're
evening?
beautiful.
In the evening? I got one in the morning. Is yours in the evening?
No, it's in the morning.
Oh, okay.
I go from breakfast to.
And then the, here.
Yeah.
Do you
So
want to
what
do,
about the- Can everybody make the 12th?
okay.
Okay, do you want to start at 6?
Can I just
Oh,
check?
sure.
No, that's okay.
How early can you come?
I can,
That's good for
as
me.
early as you guys want, I can be here,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
What about, can we, even earlier?
5?
5, 4?
I can't 4, but I could 5.
5, okay, 5 sounds good.
5's good.
Okay,
5 o'clock Wednesday, what is the date?
12th. Okay, let me,
Can you do 5? Okay.
How much time are we going to give to each applicant so that whoever's making the phone calls knows how to schedule them?
Half an hour.
15 minutes ought to,
15, 20
you know,
minutes.
yeah, if we run a little over, I mean, it's really, I mean, we have their resumes and, you know, they should be able to
I think
speak
20
for
minutes
them.
is good, 15 with
close,
5 of
yeah.
us.
They're
20
gonna,
minutes.
they're gonna go to 20 anyway, even with 15.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm
so,
going to listen just like our friend.
yeah, right. Mary, have the residents been notified that Monday's their meeting? For the
Citizens.
search committee?
It was part of the press release that we sent out, the advertisement in the first place, that was when we were looking to do it, but we wanted to get confirmation from you folks tonight.
okay.
Yeah.
All of them will be notified
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay, good.
That
All right.
we're looking to do this on Monday, the
10th.
10th.
At Monday.
Now, the other thing that we haven't talked about is how you wanted them structured. I don't want to go ahead.
Okay, yeah, okay, I'll back it off.
What
So you
time
can
is
finish
that
this one.
starting? The 10th?
Well, so far, it's just regular. We can
6.
change the time.
What we will do is in alphabetical order for the interim candidates, we'd start with whoever I think would be Hartman, Cozen,
Yeah.
and then Palea.
Yeah,
And then, and we would do the same, if you folks are agreeable, for the residents of the,
Yeah, might as well.
Search
I mean,
committee.
it's fairer that way,
yeah.
you know. Okay. So, 5 o'clock on the 12th. Of course, the only problem is that's not going to give anyone time to spend with you.
No,
No,
but
that's-
I've made a commitment to you folks that I would do whatever it takes. If I
Right.
have to come back or what
I
have you, I'll be happy to do so.
Yeah, but both, you know, all these are experienced. Now, they're all,
I know the three people that you chose, so.
yes, 2 of them are retired, right? So
Yes.
they may be limited
how much they
in
can
how
earn.
much time.
Suzanne was that way, too.
And Mike
Right.
I think,
Grasscott
aren't all
was.
3 retired?
No.
Which one is?
Mr. Palea
Palea's
is
not
not
retired.
retired.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. So, what we also need from you is the going rate.
Well, minimum wage is,
Mary, the last time,
25 an
the
hour.
last time we did Suzanne, I remember you were away and you gave her to me to do the
Yeah.
negotiation, and what you had said to me was, we took Sean's salary and divided it by the days, and that's how much I had for maximum to go to.
Yeah, 'cause-
I didn't do the maximum, I didn't get to the maximum, but I had a play area that was my cap.
Yeah.
That's what we did for, when we hired Suzanne under Sean, because I remember I did the negotiation with her,
I was-
because you were away, right, yeah, right. And it was close to the cap, but not the cap.
Yeah, but sometimes, some of them, I know when we had the other interim, there was like, we got the going rate for
Yeah.
people who did a daily,
Yeah.
you know.
I can
Supposed to
ask some
get-
interim people
Yeah.
and get some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to say a dollar.
Do we want to come up with a list of questions, that, especially for the interim administrators, so we'll ask them each the same questions?
Well, I think that's
Oh,
what we have
oh,
to
yeah.
do
Yeah.
individually, yeah. You should
Okay,
ask the
so
same
we-
question.
You
But
asked.
should we submit it to the,
No, I don't
No.
think so. I think we should just ask.
As a matter of fact,
okay,
Leon doesn't even have to be here for this.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
There's no reason why you should be.
I wouldn't think it would be appropriate, but
No,
that's...
Yeah,
no.
right.
We don't want to hear him
I mean, I
moaning.
think if I hear you ask something very, very similar to what I
Okay.
was going to ask.
You just
I'm
reword
not
it.
going to be a stickler for my own language.
You're
I'm
going to
just gonna
reword
take
it or ask it, or feed off of
You
it.
know, if we
Or
each-
feed off of
You know,
it.
if you come up with 5 questions that are
Right.
important to you, I'm sure 2 of them are going to be important
Yeah,
to
somebody else.
somebody else.
Yeah,
you know. But we do have to be consistent, the
I
same
agree.
questions.
Yeah,
I
same
agree.
questions
Each
each.
candidate,
So we should write down our questions. Okay.
unless you have a real good memory. Okay, I think that one's settled, right?
Now, Monday, are we starting at 6:30 on Monday, or can we do earlier on Monday?
Mary brought that up. Do people want to come earlier Monday?
I'm good for it. I mean, you have quite a few residents.
Yeah, how many
um,
do we have in all?
8, I think.
8,
Is that what it is?
8, 9, yeah.
I got
How long, how long are you going to give them? Like 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Pretty much,
I mean,
yeah.
okay.
Can we do earlier on Monday?
5 o'clock.
I do
5
5.
o'clock.
Can you do 5?
Of course, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
We're going to do department heads, the,
Well,
I
we
think
should
that
do
night-
the department heads first.
Right.
You want to
Yeah.
interview the department
I
heads?
don't think we,
or not?
Yeah.
I personally
do.
don't need to.
I do.
interview the department heads.
See, I don't need to.
Mike, how do you feel?
I asked the question, are we? I don't really have any, I know them, from working with them.
Yeah, and their applications
all of
speak for
them,
themselves.
They
Yeah.
they all applied, so.
How does the voting process go for this, for the residents and the department head? Do we do it privately like we just did these
No,
interim and
it's all-
handed in?
It's all public,
You make a motion, someone will second it, and you go from there.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
till we get 3.
till we get 3, okay.
Yeah. So, we can still do it alphabetically then with the citizens, unless, of course, there's someone, the first one can't come in at 5. You might have to juggle, but,
Oh, yeah, that could be it.
but,
Mm-hmm.
we can take that into account.
We'll do it as fairly as possible.
Right, right.
So was the answer yes, that you want the department heads there?
No.
No,
we
I
don't.
don't,
No?
I think the consensus,
You have letters of
So I
record,
wanted
you
to-
have letters of
I did want them,
application
but
Yeah, from them.
from
Yeah.
3
Whatever.
people.
I just
Yeah, we
asked the
work with them
question.
all. Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, not
No, we-
that this
we-
would affect Priscilla's view, but I don't recall,
No, we
while
never.
I was sitting here, ever asking them to come in.
I know, but we never
Actually,
did this
move
this
on.
way either, then, we never did, as I recall, the last time, we didn't interview the residents. I think we had a spreadsheet like we did, and we picked, I think we went through the spreadsheet and we added the numbers, and that's how the people got picked, if I remember right. For when the time when Sean left. He's the only one I know of.
Yeah,
so-
see, I remember interviewing citizens.
Might have been
I don't know
before.
all the
Yeah.
citizens, I do
Yeah.
know the department heads, that's the difference
Yeah.
for me. I don't,
Yeah, because there are some questions, particularly with the broad qualifications of all the citizens, there are some questions I would definitely like to ask them. So,
Yeah, see, I had a couple of questions too for the department heads in a sense too, because we know what they bring to the table, we know their work and all, but I'd like to know
Why?
why. Yeah, why do they want to serve this? What are they looking for? What is their ideal?
Yeah,
I'd like
well-
to know.
well, you can speak to them one-on-one, plus in a couple of the resumes, it says why.
Yeah, but I'd like a little bit more conversation.
Yeah,
All right, you know what, then I will speak to them.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah, that's a
okay.
good idea.
That's-
Yeah, I'll do that.
You know?
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
we can go up to their department and speak with them for 5, 10 minutes and just
sure.
kind of, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you're not interrupting important work.
Can make an appointment, yeah.
Okay, now, 5 o'clock we said, right?
Yep. I think we said, yeah, 5
That's on the
o'clock.
10th.
And 5 on the 12th.
No, that's not-
correct? Yeah.
And 5 on the 12th, right.
That's 5 o'clock both days.
That's Monday.
Mary's a town serving dinner?
Oh, when I used to be on the Board of Registrars, we used to get it from the caterers on Cedar Street.
Nice.
They still get
Nice.
a meal, but it's not as good now.
Oh. Well,
Okay.
beats what we get.
Yeah, we don't even get a stipend.
Well, we get one meal a year.
That's
You get 2 meals a year. It's the same day, but you get 2.
That's right, that's right, right, good point,
We have
good
to make
point.
it last. Okay, do we have everything down? Leon, can you think of anything we forgot?
No, I think, just to following up on what Michael said, if you folks wanted to have us compile a list of questions based on your feedback, we could do that so that it flowed a little bit quicker. But I'm sure you folks can handle meeting with, 3 candidates for the interim job. And you
Right.
don't have to have that much hand-holding, so.
No, I mean, because we have their resumes and, we've been around a long time. Most of us. Time flies.
Yes, you will be too.
Okay, so now we are up to town administrators update.
Great. In your agenda package, you have the material from the town administrator's update for this meeting. I just want to announce that the town of Sturbridge received a recycling dividends grant of $6,650 from the Sustainable Materials Recovery Program, and I just want to thank the Board of Health for their work in applying for and receiving those funds. I would ask for the concurrence of Matt Maselli as a member of the Housing Partnership.
Any comments, questions?
No, I will
No,
move.
but there was something I was reading, and it kept going back and forth between Affordable Housing Committee and Housing Partnership Committee.
The official name of the committee is the Housing Partnership.
Yeah.
I throw in the word affordable because
Oh, yeah, I know. it
nobody
should-
would know what that
Yeah, it
means.
should be there someplace, but
Yeah.
in our charter, it's I'm trying to think where it was.
I don't think it was in the charter. It might have been in the bylaws.
No, the Housing Partnership's in the charter.
Is it in the charter?
Yeah, because we went from a housing authority
Correct.
To
to a housing partnership.
When I advertise it, I oftentimes will use the word affordable because people may not know
Yeah, we'll put in
what the
parentheses and
housing
just- yeah,
partnership
yeah,
does.
Yeah,
so.
but if the word affordable is someplace.
But this gentleman knows he attended
Yeah.
the last meeting as
Yeah.
a non-member, and
Yeah,
So,
okay, is there,
motion to concur with the appointment of
Matt
Matt
Maselli?
Maselli to the Housing Partnership Affordable Housing Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Now, does that make a full
it does.
5?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I would be seeking the concurrence of Richard Volpe as a member of the Design Review Committee.
Okay, any questions from the board? Comments? Is there a motion?
So moved?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Now, while we're doing that one, did you want to bring up the,
I would have done it under new business because I did not have that in time for the preparation of the agenda.
Oh, okay.
However, I did leave for all the members of the Board of Selectmen a letter from Amanda Normandin of Wells Park Road, who also has an interest in filling the last vacancy on the Design Review Committee. She has a very impressive background, and I would like to recommend her to fill the last vacancy of Design Review.
okay, any comments or questions?
Motion to concur with the appointment of Amanda Normandin to the Design Review Committee.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Okay, so that does now make a 5.
Correct, that's a full board, yep. The town is looking to apply for some grant money to update our ADA plan and to make some improvements in the town to bring up our ADA compliance. One step that we could make that we would make ourselves more competitive in the process is to formalize our ADA policy and our grievance procedure. You folks may remember, at least the ones who have been on the board for a few years, back in 2008, you actually had a Sturbridge accessibility plan, which was a self-evaluation, a transition plan, policies and procedures that were recommended of the board to the Board of Selectmen back in 2008. Board of Selectmen, to the best of my knowledge, has never adopted said plans as recommended in this transition plan. If we were to apply for these grants, though, it would be required that we do so. In your agenda package, Madam Chair, I've given to you information about the Mass Office for Disabilities grant program. It's found within my memo, bless you. And the information that they are looking for with regards to projects here in the state of Massachusetts. If we would like to apply for those grants, we would need to adopt a formal policy for compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act and a grievance procedure, which I've included the text as recommended by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as part of this policy that you have in your agenda package. I would ask if the board was so willing to concur with to adopt, I should say, the Compliance with Americans with Disabilities Act and grievance procedure process as one of your town policies,
Questions, comments?
as one of your selectmen's policies.
Selectmen's policies, yeah. In here, it mentions something about the personnel policy handbook or something like that.
That's correct.
And did we have a recommendation that we not have that, we had separate, we should not have the personnel policy as a single document, but have it as separate policies?
And we sort of adopted that now the personnel policies of our town, which were adopted and included as the selectmen's policies,
Yeah.
are included within that document.
But we're just referring to the policies in general.
Correct. Now, this is going to be added to that section of the selectmen's policies under personnel,
Okay.
if approved by the Board of Selectmen tonight.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't referring to a document that we really didn't have anymore.
No, you still do have personnel policies.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, I'm good.
Anything else? Okay, is there a motion then
So, go ahead.
to approve
Go ahead,
the
no, go ahead.
ADA
Motion
policy
to-
and grievance?
Motion to approve the policy on compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act and grievance procedures,
Okay, is there a
Second.
as written.
Okay, any
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
I suppose I probably should have said that. All this policy is basically saying is that we agree to follow the federal law, which
Which we have to do anyway.
we're going to do anyways, so. So thank you for your consideration. And since we are adopting policies or changes to, you will see my information in your agenda package regarding Mass General Law, Chapter 7C, which is the designer selection portion of Mass General Law. A few years ago, the town was required, although we didn't do so until recently, to adopt written designer selection procedures. I brought that to you when I discovered that you folks hadn't done so probably 10 years earlier, when you probably should have. But the Commonwealth of Massachusetts just made some changes to the law with regards to the limits. If you go to the page under the designer selection procedure, I have amended just basically the first three sections of that, and the changes are tracked. It basically now says as amended, because we did, they have now, at the state level, amended the designer selection procedures, and they have raised the limits in section 1 and 2 under the law. So now it's not a $10,000 or more expenditure or $100,000 or more construction cost. The limits have gone from $10,000 to $30,000, and from $100,000 for construction to $300,000. So, as would be required, I would ask that the Board of Selectmen adopt the changes in the policy to be reflected as amended.
Any comments, questions? Is there a motion?
So moved?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Madam Chair, as part of our green community submission, we may wish to adopt a fuel-efficient vehicle policy to assist us in reducing our energy costs and our fuel consumption. I did outreach to some of our department heads, as well as our fire chief, our police chief, as well as our DPW director, regarding the fuel-efficient policy that you have before you under Appendix A and under Attachment B, the Sturbridge Anti-Idling Program, policy. It has been, I think if we adopt both of these policies, it will prove to be beneficial to us within our green community submission in review. I am recommending approval of these two draft policies called the Fuel Efficient Vehicle Policy and the Anti-Idling Policy. In general, what they do is they say that when possible and when not exempt under Mass General Law, we would try to purchase fuel-efficient vehicles over non-fuel-efficient vehicles when those need to be replaced. And in the case of the anti-idling policy, basically saying that idling vehicles pollute the air and present several health and environmental hazard, and we would essentially take steps to, and that's the italicized section, basically say that we will post signs in public areas, educate municipal officials and residents about the dangers and the requirements not to have your car sitting idling while you're not conducting official town business.
Any questions, comments?
Oh, I just wanted to comment on the combined city and highway miles per gallon. They would have town vehicles on the highway 57% of the time. That doesn't seem realistic. It would be a much average for town vehicles to be much lower percentage on highway, a much higher percentage on but other than that, that's just a comment. I'm not suggesting that we change it at this time.
This was the recommended from CMRPC.
It doesn't make sense.
I don't disagree with you.
Vehicles.
I would say it's probably 90-10.
Yeah, it's something like that would be more reasonable for estimating combined highway city driving.
But if I could just be so bold, I don't believe that that's actually how they're calculating that. I believe that what they're saying is that's the model by which you would calculate that.
Yeah,
I will
for passenger vehicle,
Yeah.
private vehicles, that's very reasonable on average, but not town vehicles.
No, unless we're constantly on the Mass Pike or 84.
So next
Doing
time
that
we look at our policies, we'll take a look at that.
Okay, is there a motion then?
Motion to approve the fuel-efficient vehicle policy as submitted.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay.
And the anti-idling policy, I'm assuming you're doing these one at a time,
Oh, attachment B is
the other policy.
motion to approve the Sturbridge anti-idling policy.
Second?
And under discussion, I would just add that the way we would approach this in implementing our idling reduction campaign is public education of our employees and residents, as well as the posting of signs in public areas.
Okay, Mike, did you make that motion?
I just made, so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Get through this.
Madam Chair, the WRTA has asked if we were interested in seeking a replacement on their board of directors due to the departure of yours truly. I think that the selectmen, if they wish to choose one of their own to fill that vacancy until such time as a new permanent town administrator is chosen, would certainly be well received by the WRTA if the Board of Selectmen was willing to entertain such an idea in the first place.
Okay, now, Leon, question, how often have you had to go to meetings or?
Meetings of the WRTA Board of Directors are usually monthly. It's usually, I think it's usually the third Thursday of the month at 8 a.m. at the WRTA headquarters, right in, what's the name of that square? And right next to the the train
Right next-
station.
Right next to-
Union Station.
Union Station, yeah.
So the WRTA office building is right next door to Union Station. So, and they usually meet for about an hour and a half. I would be happy if a member of the Board of Selectmen was so interested in sharing some of the old agendas of the previous meetings, if you were so interested.
Is anyone interested or considering that would only be, what, 3, 4 meetings we'd miss?
Yeah, I would like to, continue going to the meetings, just so there's some continuity there. We don't really receive a lot of WRTA services because we're out at the end of the system, but I'd like to, I do go to the CMRPC, or the MPO meetings, so, and there's a representative from WRTA that's a member of the MPO, so I'd like to.
So you volunteer?
I'd like to learn more about, about the organization, so if I can go to 2 or 3, 4 meetings, I'd like to do it.
You going?
All yours. It's all yours.
We're not going to fight over.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
It's,
I mean, it's.
I'm not, if somebody else wants to do it.
We don't really need a motion. Okay.
I would ask for a motion.
You would on that?
Yeah, that
Okay.
you would authorize him to vote on your
Okay,
behalf.
then agree with the appointment of Mike Supranat for the temporary WRTA rep.
Okay, I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay.
In your agenda package, you have a receipt of a letter from the building inspector regarding a warrant article for adjustment to his salary, including some information that he had provided to the town for your consideration.
Okay, Nelson, would you come down, please? Good evening.
I'm here tonight, and basically, I'm requesting that the Board of Selectmen consider a warrant article to bring to the special town meeting this fall for the purpose of funding an additional step. The increase would amount to $3,091 per year. As a town administrator may have explained to you, my position came between 2 steps when we transitioned to the new step systems for department heads this year. I feel I should have been moved to the next step in this process, with all due respects to the town administrator. Also, I feel it would only be fair if it's retroactive from the beginning of the fiscal year, like all other department heads.
Any questions from the board? Comments? Nelson, this is kind of unusual. And I think it's poor precedent for positions to come forward to the Board of Selectmen for salary increases. It is the town administrator's budget that he puts together and the money. And Leon, could you please explain how we got here to the...
Well, sure. I probably won't read my memo to the board, but, well, maybe I will go through, because it does highlight the comments that Nelson didn't mention when he came forward, talking about his hire. So in his communication to you, he cited the fact that Sean Sahowski, who was the then town administrator, credited him with 4 years of service when he was hired. I acknowledge the fact that he did not start at the beginning of the pay scale at the time when he was hired. Essentially, he was hired at step 3, not exactly, but close enough to step 3 that I would call it step 3. If we had had steps at that time. Now, we didn't have steps at that time, as Nelson and I had talked about. The hiring range for the position was the starting salary at $48,602 when he started, and he actually came in at $54,000. So clearly, the town administrator acknowledged that he had skills and a background that had him starting at a much higher rate than the initial step of the pay scale. So what I had done was, when we went through the process of transitioning to steps, I made an analysis of where he would have been based upon the salary. Now, certainly, I wouldn't necessarily move anybody backwards, per se, but when we went through the process, he fell in the middle between step 8 and step 9, and when I looked at his years of service, even counting the step that he started at, bless you, it was my belief that he would have been at a step 7 in fiscal year 19. Saying that I would never move necessarily someone back, I ended up putting him at step 8, which would have been actually one step higher than where he would have been if we had steps all along. I felt at the time that it was the fair thing to do, and that there were other employees in Sturbridge who worked for the town that were longer than him that were not at that step. But I also point out in my memo that there are no hard and fast rules when dealing with issues like this. What I did was, I thought was fair, but I also pointed out that the town clerk sought an increase of her step at town meeting. She was successful. The building inspector feels aggrieved by this placement and was seeking relief by the Board of Selectmen in this matter. I do point out that if he is successful, he might not be the last person who comes forward. Not that there's a lot of people that fall into his situation, but, I'm comfortable with whatever the Board of Selectmen would do. Like you said, Mary, it is my budget. It was the budget that I brought to town meeting. It was the budget that was supported by the town. The only way, I don't have the ability, as I told Nelson, to grant him the additional step because it was never put into the operating budget to fund that. But if the Board of Selectmen were to agree with a warrant article and be willing to defend it at town meeting, I don't see a reason why Nelson's request couldn't be done at town meeting, even retroactive to the beginning of the fiscal year.
Well, it's 6 one, half dozen of the other, but I do have, let's put it this way, nobody thinks they make enough money. It's given. And I think this is opening the door. And Nelson, even when you came in, Nelson, Sean credited you with 4 years of service, but it was only for calculating vacation time, okay? Now, when you came in, you weren't full-time, and then you did go full-time. So, I firmly believe that you're on the step you should be on. According to Leon's calculations, it would be actually step 7 if it was going back. Plus, there are people in town who have been here longer, have not attained step 9 yet.
Can I explain a little better? Am I wrong, Leon, or did this last fiscal year process, I got a half a step in my percentage?
You were put on a step.
Of half a step.
Yeah,
I didn't get a step, I got a half a step, which is highly unusual, I agree. So I'm not asking what someone else could ask later. My case is totally different. I think either I'm confused or you guys are confused, but I felt I only got a half a step after looking at, other information and everything, so I'm
because you
only
ended up
asking-
in the middle. You ended up in the
So
middle.
I'm at,
Question, can I ask
Calculated.
this? Leon, I was confused before, and I guess I am still a little bit. You say I put him at his current grade of step 8, since he fell in the middle of step 8 and 9. How did he fall in the middle again?
Well, because
Because fiscal year 19, he was at 7.
he wasn't,
He would have
been at 7.
Would have been at 7.
If you just looked at his years of
I
service.
follow that. So how come it ended up being
A half a step.
between 8 and 9? I followed the logic up to step 7 in fiscal year 19.
Because you have to remember, we didn't have steps until just very recently, and
Right.
Mr. Burlingame was transitioned from
I follow-
part-time to full-time.
I follow all that, but I put him in his current grade of step, and he would have been at step 7 in fiscal year 19.
Only by years of service.
By years of
But his
service.
salary was higher than that.
Okay, is that why you're saying it fell in between 8 and 9?
That's correct.
Because his salary reflected a higher step.
And I would never move somebody
Right,
backwards.
so based on his salary,
Yes.
he's at he was at an 8.5.
it wasn't quite, but it was in that
Somewhere.
area.
So, are we giving input now, or you wanted to talk, right? I don't want to.
I'm agreeing with you, Mary, completely.
so I
I'm getting
just-
half a step. You're
So you're at the,
completely right.
he's
It's
at.
totally different than
he's
anybody
at about
else.
8.
You're never going to see this again, I don't think.
Well,
Okay.
Nelson,
I-
the circumstances were totally different, agreed, but salary-wise, you started higher than normally. When you first came in,
Mary, can I say this? If you started the job, and you didn't come to the job because you had experience, and finally they started you at a certain step, now you're penalizing me for it. That's wrong. I'm sorry, that's wrong.
Can I just, can I?
I don't think Mary's done.
Okay, I guess I don't disagree with Mary's reasoning in the sense that it is typically, it is the town administrator's position to come up with the budget, et cetera. But honestly, I agree with Nelson to the extent that once he was put at that salary, we can't look, that's where, he came in with that kind of job expectation, he's at that salary. So I do think he falls above the step 8. He is falling in between those two. It is an unusual situation. I'm not in favor, and I think Leon's done a fabulous job, and I've told them this before, I'm not in favor of when an employee does fall a little bit higher to go back, you know? I think that you got to, at that point, if he's going to fall at a half a step, I'd push him to the other end. Or at a minimum, I guess I would let the town decide in this instance. I personally don't think it's going to create a dominoes effect, because I can't think of a lot of situations where somebody is going to be in between a step like that. So, I mean, that's kind of my reaction, to give the benefit of the doubt to the employee. But
Also on the step, so,
I follow that he
there are
only
probably
would have
some other people that disagree with the step they're on, too. That's the can of
But,
worms.
can
that
I-
would- Yeah, wait a minute. But that's the can of worms that would be open. We run into the same problem on personnel when people come in and want their grade graded.
That I would not
because-
have, and I think at one point your email said you wanted your grade reviewed again.
Changed to-
That
It's a
to me
step.
is
At that time, I didn't understand.
Okay,
the
but
whole-
like that
whole
to
thing
me
that
is a
only got a
whole-
half a step either.
Right,
I mean,
but that-
this all progressed as
Okay.
you saw those
The grade to me
emails.
is a whole different,
Because it took a while to
the
understand.
grade is a whole different animal.
I agree.
Where I would not go back and question the grade that somebody was placed at.
Priscilla, you're bursting.
I agree with Mary Dowling for two reasons. One is that we've done this before mid-year for another department head. The second reason is it's $3,000 and some change. Also the fact, this is the other thing that makes me think about this way. I've been here, since I've been here, there have been about 4 or 5 building inspectors. They don't stay. They don't stay for one reason or another. We have a building inspector who is here, who was part-time, who we said to, I was one of the strongest ones, and Nelson, you'll tell me yourself, who said to him, prove yourself, give us the numbers, show me the documentation so that you can become full-time. And he did what was requested, and he's full-time. We don't receive any complaints against him. Bless you.
Bless you.
We don't receive, he's got his plate full, he's attending to the signs, he's attending to the construction, he's attending to the things he needs to attend to. For the reasons of stability in our own community, I personally, for $3,091, have no issue with letting the people decide, letting it go to a special town meeting.
We have, all our people work hard. No one works harder than other people. Everybody does the job they're supposed to be doing. I think this will all work out in the next budget cycle, because if, as Leon says, the steps were there from the beginning, he would only be on 7 this year. So he's actually a step higher than he really would have been.
But some of our people got a lot more in,
That's right,
in
and some-
raise than, I mean, some of our people have made $12,000 gains in 2 years. That's a substantial
And some
gain.
people have been here quite a bit longer.
Agreed, but $12,000 is a lot of money. I would like to work somewhere to get $12,000 raise in 2 years.
Here's the thing, I mean, Leon did what Leon did was extremely reasonable, and I don't disagree with that at all. But it's one of those ambiguities where, had he come out differently, that also would have been reasonable if he fell a little above a step. I mean, as Mary said, you would have been at step 7 in fiscal year 19.
Can I
But
say?
I know, I appreciate what you said, you can't go back because you were hired at the higher salary. And when somebody takes a job, they come with that expectation. So I guess that's the way I'm leaning. But honestly, this could go either way. So I absolutely see the reasoning in our town administrator. And
I see the reason.
I thought he did it in good faith.
Yes.
It's one of those where you could err either way, and one's going to leave you disgruntled, and the other way for 3,000, and I agree, I think you've done a great job as the building inspector.
Thank you.
And we're going to have to deal with it case by case. If others come forward.
That's right.
And they have a similar situation, then we're going to have to address it. But at least, going to town meeting, I hope your skin is thick, because I honestly could see this going either way, and
I can see it going
I
for
can
him.
defer it, to the townspeople.
I can see it going in his favor.
Either way, it's got to go by the finance committee too. Mike?
When you went full-time, how many hours a week are you working as full-time employee?
Right now, 35.
35.
All full-time employees for the most part, right?
Yeah, but he was hired at 28 hours per week.
Correct.
So when you went,
I didn't know you were asking me.
went from
Sounded like it was
28 hours per week to 35 hours per week, did you get a 25% increase in salary?
Yes, he was taking, yes. We didn't make him work for more hours and get no pay, yeah, no.
Then his
So-
administrative assistant had hours added on too.
Added on too, so, but, well, that's,
Yeah.
so the increase in hours was taken into account.
Oh, my God, yes.
And,
Yeah, no, he would have been out the door.
He would have
Didn't do that.
resigned by now.
And so after, in July of 2014, he was at 54,000, so he should have, so then with the COLA and everything, he should be up, COLA, and the step increases, what's the salary now for this step, and what's the annual
Well-
salary?
Step 8 is 75,942.
78?
75,000.
I didn't bring what step 9 was going to be.
Step 9 is 79,033.
Yeah.
And what are you, and you, okay.
He's asking $3,091, am I right?
Right.
And then townspeople voted to put him on step 9. Then next year he'd be maxed out on,
Correct.
other than years after that.
So
The,
roughly from the day of hire to present, he's gone from, the full-time salary would be from 65,000 up to 80,000 in 4 years.
In the 4 years he's been here, he went from 54,000 to whatever.
Yeah,
Almost.
but I'm saying the equivalent salary that
I don't know if that's
he had-
right, because I went from 7, I think I'm going from 7 to 8. I don't know, everybody's saying 9 tonight, so I'm keeping quiet, but it seems confused to
You're
me.
going from step 7?
From 7 to 8?
Seven-
Right,
So
that's what I
you're at-
thought.
So you're at 7.5 is what you're saying?
Well, you're at
So-
7.
No.
What is your
No,
salary?
no, 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 no,
Oh,
no,
he's
no,
saying
no.
somewhere between step 8 and 9.
All I know,
He's at 8.
can I say this to clear things up? All I know is I ended up with a half a step for the fiscal year. Every other town department head employee got a step increase. That was the big deal. Everybody's going to be treated fair, and everybody's going to get their steps, and I got the half a step. I was the one exception. This is never going to come up again. So when Mary says, oh, this will be brought, it can't be brought up again, because no one's ever going to be on a half a step. They never should. So
No, but
this
Nelson,
is like a one-shot
They
What
can
is his
They can argue
salary
for a
right
whole
now?
step.
Leon, what
That
is
was
his,
my point.
his salary right now?
He is at step 8.
75,000.
His
Yeah,
current,
step 8.
his current step is step 8.
$75,940.
He fell between step 8 and step 9.
And it brought him to step 8,
I put him at step 8.
so he did go back.
No,
No, he
because what
wasn't.
I'm saying
Have
is,
a half a step.
I got a half a step.
Step.
And can I say this, and I don't want to confuse the issue, but as far as steps goes, there are people that start, you just voted yes, and I'm not saying you're wrong, because I think you should, the IT person, you started in step 2. I mean, you might have got a real good one in a step 3 or a step 1. Sean decided to stop me at whatever step he started.
But
You
see,
shouldn't
no,
hold
there
it
were-
against me now on steps,
no.
Mary.
Nelson, there were no steps then.
Right, right,
He gave
right.
you 4 years' experience
Right.
based
Right.
solely for vacation time.
you have to-
Vacation time.
It was for vacation.
No, but you have to judge it somehow. You have to decide I started somewhere. Because you're assuming I started, everybody, well, not everybody, you're assuming I started at a step 1, which there was
There were
never
no
steps.
steps.
no, hold on.
Right, right.
I'm sorry, I don't mean
I
to
don't wanna
interrupt, but
argue with you.
in my letter, in what I just
Explanation.
read, I explained that, in essence, you would have started at step 3. And I agree with that, because according to the numbers, you were started at $54,000.
Right.
And if we had steps at that time, step 3 would have been $54,134. So shy of step 3 by $134. I'm saying you would have been at step 3. So you are correct. And if you, but if you follow that logic, in 2000, in fiscal year 14, you would have been at step 3, 15.4, 16.5, 17.6, 18, step 7, and the current fiscal year, current fiscal year is step 7.
Yeah, so I guess again, so how did he end up at 8.5?
Just because over the years, there's been cost of living adjustments, there's
Right,
been other
right.
increases that have gone along,
Which every employee gets.
which every employee gets.
So I'm saying, here's the bottom line. Every other employee got a step. I got a half a step. I agree with you, Mary. You shouldn't look backwards, we should go forwards, and what's fair forward? And I think, I'm going to think fair forward is the step and a half, 'cause you can't give, well, you can give me half a step, but I don't think it's fair. And,
I
mean,
guess what Lee, I guess we should let the people decide. I think probably one of the factors that was concerning our town administrator is his next sentence. I felt it was the fair thing to do, especially since there are many employees in Sturbridge who have worked for the town much longer than him that are not at step 9 yet. So I think it was probably kind of a fairness thing, that others have been in this, working longer, and they're not at 9 yet. I understand everyone's going to look at their own history and see where they fall. Hey, it's one of those situations that it could be reasonable either way, but money-wise, where you fell higher than step 8, and you had to go someplace, I guess I would have gone to 9 over 8, but I can understand fully what the reasoning was of Leon, so.
Okay, so can I make a motion?
Certainly, unless somebody else wants to say something
Well, I think we can have discussion anyways.
afterwards.
I want to make a motion that we honor the request of Nelson Burlingame to consider a warrant article for the special town meeting and let the townspeople decide on this step.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? One opposed.
All right, thanks, Nelson.
Thanks
Thank you.
for coming in, Nelson. Oh, Nelson, was it you that took care of the sign in front of the old Kiwi?
I actually went up there with the facilities director, and it had been taken down by them. We went up there with a bar and a hammer. We worked.
What about the one coming into town from Brimfield and the one on 148? Did you get those?
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, we just heard about it, today.
What does that one say?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Really? They must have, unless I didn't see it, I didn't know it was up
Yeah,
there before.
well, that's what they said, so.
Barbara
check.
saw it.
And supposedly,
Who is this?
they've been up since
You thought
last
the
week.
other one was at the new nursery?
Yeah,
Kiwi
the old
was?
Kiwi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. started,
Not Sturbridge. No, Sturbridge.
Stubbage.
Sturbridge.
Welcome is
Sturbridge.
wrong.
Yeah.
Sturbridge?
Then it-
That's the English teacher.
And then it started the whole debate about where's Fistio, and
Oh, yeah.
we went through it 35 years ago
We're gonna have to put the police on watch for these
with the
signs.
post office.
That will never
And it-
end.
Well, I know, but the post office agreed, however many years ago, that you
Yeah.
could put Sturbridge 01566, or you could put Sturbridge 01518, and it'll get there.
Just look at that.
Yeah, we even practiced it for a while, but it was a...
Didn't last long.
I
It
remember
was a
when
big
they
ado.
wouldn't do that,
Thanks,
though.
Nelson.
Yeah. And then Cricket Drive, everybody thinks Cedar Street's the line of demarcation.
Cedar Street?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah, one side of Cedar Street is,
Fistale and one side is not?
except for Cricket Drive and those,
Maybe these signs are helpful that we have.
the developer wanted a,
Dick May?
Dick May wanted a Sturbridge address instead of Fistale.
That's funny.
Thought the houses would sell better.
Maybe the Wayfinding Committee needs to make a new sign.
We talked about it, actually.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
Well, then we'd have to put Snellville,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
Podunk?
Podunk.
It's not on the list, but we
Westville?
have talked about it. Madam Chair, the next item, since we're talking about town meeting, I'd like to suggest that the committee, the Board of Selectmen, set the date for the upcoming town meeting, special town meeting. I've been talking with Lynn Gerard, the town clerk, who's been also speaking with Tantascwa, and with Jean Boubon, who has the largest article coming before town meeting. And we think that we're going to recommend October 29th, 2018 as the special town meeting.
Sounds good. Comments from the board? Somebody want to make a motion then to set it?
I'll make a motion to set the special town meeting on October 29th, 2018,
Second.
7 PM
at 7 PM.
at Tantascwa,
Sharp,
Tantascwa High School.
at Tantascwa,
High school.
Okay, is there a second?
the auditorium.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Great, so what I'll do is I will begin the process of requesting articles from everyone and getting all of that stuff prepared. In your agenda package, you have a brief note from me and from the town accountant on our net metering credits. I offered to provide to you a kind of an update at the end of the fiscal year as to where we stood with the net metering credits. Now, remembering that we didn't have all the blue wave credits, it started midway through 2018, fiscal year 2018. But in essence, between our three net metering projects that we have, we've seen $116,284.71 in basically net metering savings for the town. So it has been working really well, and I think the Board of Selectmen should be proud of the work that you've done. I know you had lots and lots of meetings over the last 5 or so years on solar projects, and this is really the benefit that you've seen. So I have on the agenda a discussion on my goals, and if you would bear with me for literally 4 minutes, unlike Tom, I feel like I can get through it.
Tom's for.
In your agenda package, I have provided to you folks a kind of update on where we are with the goals, and I'll go through them kind of briefly, and what our next steps really should be through the end of this calendar year. The goal number 1 is the rezoning of Route 15. Your next step is going to be meeting with the Planning Board and the Board of Selectmen to go over draft proposals to amend the zoning bylaws at the annual town meeting next year. Jean Boubon is going to be on track to have that scheduled sometime this fall between the two boards. So you be on the lookout for that. The goal number 2 is the recreational marijuana. As I kind of alluded to a moment ago, Planning Board is prepared a draft bylaw based on the input that you received from the Planning Board and the Board of Selectmen to address recreational marijuana sales in town. now that we've set the special town meeting for October 29th, it should be dealt with at that time, the bylaw for that. Goal number 3 is the implementation of McGilpin Road water line study. As you know, the state DEP is investigating the responsible party for the well contamination in this part of the town. I requested another update from them, which I'm hoping to get sometime before the end of this week. I'll forward it to you and to the Board of Health and to the new town administrator when they come on board. As you all know, the state provided us with monies for some implementation. They provided us monies for the study, which we completed this past summer. They've now provided the town with a line item in the budget to bring to fund some public water in the area. Both Greg and I feel that the amount, while it's generous, is nowhere near enough to complete the project, which means at some point down the road, the Board of Selectmen is going to need to decide, do you wish to ask the residents to cover the cost of the difference, which in my opinion is probably the fairest way when you consider how other neighborhoods were brought onto public water, or do you have the town cover the remaining portion? This could be a multi-million-dollar project, so something that you folks are going to need to keep in mind. Goal number 4 is the public building construction studies. I did mention to you that that we did go out to bid this past year for building space for the senior center. We didn't get any bids for that. And I mentioned in my little update to you that there is a slight problem with the space needs analysis for the public safety complex. The problem is that the consultant that we've been utilizing for the last several years has not been responsive to my recent request, and CME, the company, no longer does this work. I think a new architect is going to need to be brought on board to conduct this study, and I have already discussed this with our new facilities person. I propose that the Board of Selectmen consider a municipal buildings committee for the town of Sturbridge. I intended to do this formally at this meeting. However, from previous discussions that we had about the Sustainability Committee, I understand that the board might want the new town administrator to weigh in on whether or not the creation of this committee would be worthwhile or not. So I think it would be a good idea to have a committee like this to work with Ashley, the department heads, the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, on establishing a strategy for buildings moving forward. Because, quite frankly, you have public safety, DPW, senior center, 8 Brookfield Road, and probably a half a dozen other things that are going to be coming forward over the next several years that are all going to be looking for millions of dollars from you. So having a strategy as to what things should be done first, what things should be done second, is probably a good idea. In your packet, I've given you a copy of a memo that I used when I created this similar type of position or similar type of committee when I was in West Boylston. It gives you a good idea as to what to think about moving forward. Goal number 5 was the underground utility study for Route 20. You will be happy to know that 3 out of the 4 utilities have provided us the information. 2 out of the 3 utilities have provided us a cost estimate for that, as well as a cost estimate for the coordination of the project. As soon as we get the last information from Verizon, which we hope to get within the next week or 2, Gene Bouban will have all the amounts, and it'll be provided to you within a memo so that you might be able to fund that project, if you're so willing, at your annual town meeting. Goal number 6 was establishing the Affordable Housing Partnership Committee. As I said in my memo to you, I expected that we would have a full membership as of tonight's meeting. We now do. They have been meeting and are exploring the goals that they wish to pursue and recommend to the town. One of the goals that they have to establish a plan to begin to meet the town's housing needs, and a housing study might be part of that plan. I think it's a good idea at some point for the Board of Selectmen to invite the Housing Partnership to a future meeting of the board to talk about the things that they're working on and to build a little bit of publicity for the work that they're going to be doing. Goal number 7 was looking at the hours of town offices as a way to provide nighttime hours. As you know, back in July, we implemented on a trial basis for the last 6 months of the year to see how the new hours are going. They seem to be well received by the people who are coming in. We are getting a fair number of people in some departments. In our office, for example, it's kind of light, and in some of the other town departments who don't have regular walk-ins, it doesn't seem to be as fruitful, but we are getting quite a bit of work done in the hours that some people think that we're closed. So it is working it seems to be working, but I think that we are continuing to get survey results, and while we're not getting flooded with survey results, the people who come in during these times, who work during the day, seem to be very appreciative of the fact that you folks had taken this action. Goal number 8 is the Recreation Committee, helping them on the recreational field project. As I mentioned, I've worked closely with Annie Rossioli, Barbara Berry, and Greg Morse on the recreational field project over the last several months. As you know, it failed to get the required quantum of vote at town meeting for the second time. I'm working with Annie and Greg on 2 other items at the request of the Board of Selectmen. One, looking into the legal feasibility of altering the Shepherd deed and to get better numbers of ledge removal. More information will be coming over the next several months. There are also other ideas that the Recreation Committee will be considering as well. Moving forward, I have a recommendation on this project. While the Recreation Committee has responsibility for the majority of the project, it does fall under their constitutional purview. They still need to do a better job of coordinating the financing and public relations components of the project. I feel that if the Board of Selectmen supports this project, I would suggest that they designate one of their members to serve as a liaison to the Recreational Committee to ensure that you are getting regular updates on this project. I'd also make the same recommendation to the Finance Committee. And then the final goal that I want to just mention is the pursuing the age and dementia-friendly designation for the town of Sturbridge. As I mentioned to you, we did seek the funds to the grant funds. We are created a memory cafe. We've begun operation of that. It seems to be going quite well. It seems to be well received, I should say. And the Senior Center Director is scheduled to meet with the Board of Selectmen at the second meeting of October. This is going to be on her agenda to discuss with you at much greater detail. I just wanted to provide to you a kind of a final update on the goals before I leave. Madam Chair, I have no other items under Town Administrator's update.
Okay, any questions on any of the goals? And
It
things?
took me 6 minutes, I'm sorry.
That's
I just
okay.
want to say excellent, Leon, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
You always go above and beyond. That's why, and that's
They
why
came
we're
after.
losing you.
Leon, speaking of the water, though, you sent us that email request from somebody up on the trail.
Yes.
Now, is that just that person, or does he have a feel for the neighborhood?
I think it's a start of something that will be coming. So I have asked Greg to at least look at it so that he could actually have intelligent, well, put it on his radar for number one, but also that in the future you'll be having an intelligent conversation with him about
Because,
that.
I mean, if it's just the one person in
Oh, I know. It's going to be,
Masses
it's a difficult
responsible.
situation. It's a difficult
mass
situation.
pay.
Here we go.
Okay, that's okay. Old business.
We just have the one item on the agenda. It's the review of the draft of the one-day liquor license. At the previous meeting of the board, the selectmen spoke about creating a policy governing one-day liquor licenses. And at the last meeting of the board, I believe it was Priscilla who had asked if we could review the issue regarding the tip certification. I did follow up on the request from Selectman Jimis. According to Mass General Law, I cannot find any requirement that a tip certification is required under anyone receiving a one-day liquor license. So to that respect, I do agree with Priscilla. It isn't necessarily required. It does appear to be something that some communities have established as a criteria, but it doesn't appear to be based in law. So therefore, what I wrote to the board was if the selectmen are willing, you could remove this requirement from the draft policy that I provided to you at your last meeting, and if the board was so willing, you could adopt it as amended, removing the paragraph which reads, "All individuals who will serve, sell, deliver, or dispense alcoholic beverages must have current proof of completion within the last 3 years of an appropriate Massachusetts alcoholic beverage server training program tips. Servers must have certification on their person during the event."
How does the board feel?
Did you get all that?
I would remove it.
Yeah, I'd remove it. It's
Yeah,
kind of
because
a
it's,
unnecessary.
Yeah, it's confining.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody's doing a one-day fundraiser
Once a year.
once a year, that puts a big burden on them
Yeah.
and an added expense that they don't need.
Yeah, no.
I would make a recommendation to remove it.
Okay, that's a motion.
A motion, yes.
This is for
Tip certified, one day,
on private property?
anywhere, even on the town common, anywhere.
If it's on town property, I absolutely would be.
If it's not a town-sponsored thing.
No, if it's on, if we own the property, we should check with our insurer, because I think we could be liable if we don't have, even though we're not running the event, especially if we're charging for the use of the facility. You know, I've run into this before, not with alcohol, but insurance requirements and that sort of thing are, on town property are, and I'm sure tip certification would be so the issue on town property would be, I would be very strongly in favor of requiring tip certification for events on town property. On private property, that's up to the owner of the property. That's their business. But
Do you have any
town
feedback on
property
that, Leon?
I agree wholeheartely with Mike, but I'm actually not going to be voting in favor of the policy anyway, so I'm refraining. But I would agree with Mike's position on that, on town-owned property.
in
I
any
mean,
town.
our insurance, how's that work, Leon?
Well, if you look on the application that I've included as part of this policy, you'll see that events held on town property has its own special category at the bottom of the page. Permission from the appropriate board must be included if the event is held on town property. For example, the library trustees must approve requests for events held at the library, and it follows up by saying, an insurance certificate with liquor liability naming the town of Sturbridge as an additional insured must be reviewed by the town before the license will be issued. And I don't answer that way to say that I agree or disagree
They're not
with.
going to get
It's
they're
very
not going to get
flippant not to
insurance.
have it.
They're not going to get insurance without tip certification.
No, you do. You do. Our parish has insurance, and we have a once-a-year event, and we do other events on other properties. And our insurance covers us, so that if we violate anything, we're covered by, I mean, obviously, if it's egregious against the law, no, but we're covered. So they can get a one-day rider on their insurance. If they've had the insurance company for a long time, it's usually no charge for a nonprofit, but they certainly can get the rider to cover them and provide the information the town's requesting. That's not unheard of. I mean, when you look at one-day licenses, many times it's for charitable events.
Right.
It's supposed to be for charity.
Right, for charitable events. Why burden them even more? I mean, they're trying to raise money, is how I see this. They're trying to raise money for whatever the cause. I don't see the need to burden them even further. That's just my opinion.
Okay,
I'll make
Did
a
you make a
motion.
motion?
Yeah, I made the motion, yeah.
okay, did anyone second it?
No,
I'll second it.
And just to be clear, it was to adopt the policy.
Without that.
Without that.
Yes.
Section.
yes.
Without the section.
Is there any more discussion on it? All those in favor of the motion, 3. All those opposed, 2. Motion carries.
Madam Chair, I have no other old business.
Priscilla?
Yes, I went to the Council on Aging meeting yesterday for that request for Sturbridge only. I spoke to the Secretary of Elder Affairs for the state of Massachusetts to see what guidelines he would give, and I brought those to the Council on Aging. There were 4 people who had reached out to me who also attended that meeting. And what I walked away with was that they're going to decide something by January. So it really does still leave some disgruntled seniors. There's no resolution at this point in time. I don't know what the resolution will be, because they're going to take it under advisement and by December have something in the newsletter. So I don't think I got any further than I was, other than to bring forward the complaint of the people who have spoken to me.
Yeah. Well, if they're looking at it, and really, to be honest, December's not that far away.
No, it isn't. That's why you got to get the
Yeah.
word out quick.
Yeah.
You know, they really have to think about this quick. Because the Secretary of Elder Affairs said that if you have like exercise classes or a bus trip, for example, you can state, let's say it starts October 1st, you can state that all Sturbridge residents have until, let's say, September 29 to register. After the 29th of September, it opens up to anyone. So if you come on the 30th and there's no room, well, too bad, you had the whole month, okay? Whereas now, it's come one, come all, and the Sturbridge residents are the ones left out. So that hopefully will change.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Yeah. Okay. Chase, old?
No.
Mike?
No.
Mary?
No.
The only old, I mentioned it to Leon, we voted the HEAL contract in executive session. We actually also have to vote the approval in open session. So is there someone willing to make that motion?
Motion to approve the HEAL agreement, what do they call it, the local, what kind of, what's the term that we use for that type of agreement? It's,
It's a community host.
community
Community host agreement.
host
HEAL.
agreement. Motion to approve between the town of Sturbridge and HEAL Inc.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, that's 5-0. Okay, correspondence, Mary?
Sipping around, thank you. Correspondence dated August 2018 from the CPC, a report detailing community needs, August 2018. Conservation Commission notification to abutters, construction of a home, August 2018. Sturbridge Senior Center, a Caring Place Memory Cafe, no-cost cafe events for 2018. August 15th, Charter Communications regarding upcoming changes to the channel lineup. August 16th, tractor-trailer diesel fuel spill cleanup, documentation regarding activities performed to contain and clean up a release of diesel fuel associated with a tractor-trailer accident on June 19th. August 17th, Escape Estates, review of recreation area proposal, a request for town council to review a proposal of potential new community rec areas. August 20th, notice of appreciation to the DPW. Ron Jablansky of Brookfield Road wanted to recognize the DPW and Mr. Kerboy for being professional, curious.
Courteous.
I know, I think he meant courteous and helpful during a recent fallen tree incident. August 21, Sturbridge Business Advisory Group announcing the transportation shuttle service pilot launch. August 29th, a cease and desist notification for forest cutting plan at 550 Route 15. Cease and desist letter to Silvertree Realty from the Concom. August 30th, Recreation Department end of summer update, an update from the rec regarding summer activities and programs.
And I will tell you, just to follow up on August 29th, the cease and desist. Non-coincidentally, we received an application for a forest cutting plan that you will be hearing in the future.
That's one way to get him.
It is one way to get them, yes.
Okay, next we have minutes. Okay, we have August 1st, 2016.
I just ask, I don't know who did these, actually Rebecca, those split votes, we always put the names. And that's the only thing I have on that.
Oh,
Town clerk vacancy?
See,
Yeah,
three
split
to
vote.
two
I don't
vote.
remember. This is a year ago, a year plus.
well,
I want to say
That-
that,
years ago.
But, well, actually, that first motion didn't occur at that meeting because we didn't interview till the next meeting.
So that motion that
motion
has
to
3 to
have-
2 is not good?
No, to
Oh,
have the
okay.
town administrator enter into negotiations with Lynn Gerard.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of strange.
Yeah, because the next motion is
Okay,
set the meeting to interview.
okay.
So,
All right.
no, wait a minute, hold on. No, I think that is correct, but I think in the second motion, I believe that's where the, wait a minute, hold on. I'll have to have that reviewed.
Because
Yeah,
we
you're right,
int-
you're right.
not
we
right.
interviewed
Something's not
before
right.
we,
Yeah, you're right.
I actually think I and Craig Moran were wanting to enter into negotiations with Lynn, and it probably got voted down 2-3. So the next motion was to schedule interviews.
Oh, I
Board
think
of
you may be
Selectmen
right.
is how it happened, and everybody was on board with that approach.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, but we don't really, do we know who the 2 are?
Yes, it was Craig.
Craig and Mary.
I made the motion,
It
and
was
Craig
actually
seconded
vote
it.
2-3, not 3-2.
Right, the
So
vote
it
is
should be
flipped.
2 to 3.
Yes,
Right.
it failed.
vote failed,
Failed.
that's what it was.
All right, yes.
It was still, yes,
I
still
made
the
the-
names all need to be there,
Priscilla,
but,
Mike, and I voted.
Yeah,
no,
No,
okay.
Yep, I got you.
you voted to interview.
right,
Yes, okay.
Good catch. Yep.
that's good.
Well, it's good. Somebody's got a good memory.
Kind of.
But I know we didn't vote a 3-2 to
Yeah, no, I
enter.
was trying to remember where I sat on that, I was like, yeah, I can't.
Okay, is there a motion to approve those minutes as
I
amended?
did, so moved.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Oh, yeah, but I didn't see your hand, Priscilla.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I just figured, okay. I made the
did.
motion.
Yeah. Okay. Next, we have, what?
I'm sorry, can we just can I make a motion to reopen
Sure.
the August 1st?
Yeah.
I make a motion.
Second,
Okay.
favor?
Just because under old business, Heal Inc. requests for a letter for non-opposition. They would not engage in the sale of recreational, that is a true sentence, but under the non-opposition, it makes it appear that it should read for a letter for non-opposition for a medical facility. Because that's what the non-opposition's for. And then they would not engage in the sale of recreational marijuana until, because somebody reading that is not going to
No.
know why we voted the way we
Yep,
did.
okay. I can make that amendment.
Okay, for medical facility.
Okay, so
So
I'm still,
I make a motion to approve the August 1st minutes as amended.
Second.
amended. Any discussion?
amended.
All in favor? 4-0. One abstention. Okay. Now we have August 22nd, 2016. On page 2, that third bullet up, the motion to agree with the trailer, the emergency oil spill response, doesn't make much sense. I think it was to agree with the location of the trailer for emergency oil spill
Oh,
responses.
yes. Yep.
Does anybody else have anything? Okay, is there a
I just have one thing. Unless we went out of order with everything, I know I left that meeting, well, I don't remember anymore, but it says I left at 8:30, which I don't disagree with. But if this is going in order, I wasn't present on the 148 vote.
Yeah,
But then later, I am present for Michael Briggs, 5-0, and I am present for the DPW update.
Yeah, 'cause-
So I don't, was that not done in order?
I think it was, but I think I had that same question, but then I think I remembered you went to the bathroom while we took a few votes.
Oh, okay.
Could be, yeah, right,
And then I came back.
Yeah.
right.
And then you
did,
left.
but
Okay.
Then you left. Not to bring up private stuff.
Yeah, Lorraine, M. Dowling not present for vote. And then I really did leave.
Yeah, Yeah.
Okay.
I have one correction on the back, page 4. New business, about a board retreat. The town administrator responded.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
She teaches math.
This book's written in English.
It's okay, there was an interesting question on Jeopardy of 5 languages used at the United Nations, which is the only one written in cursive?
French? No,
Arabic.
Arabic.
because it's only in Arabic.
It's a cursive text.
Yep. Okay, August 29th, 2016.
Oh, did you vote? You got to vote,
Oh,
Oh,
all
we-
in favor?
as amended.
Yeah,
As
Mary
amended.
said that.
With
Yeah,
the
as
ED
amended.
on recommended
Okay.
or responded.
22nd. Aren't we going to the
3, 4,
17th?
0, and 1.
We're going out of order, that's okay.
No, because it's a
17th
different
is-
year.
That's,
Oh, okay, thank
August
you.
17th
Okay.
is this year.
So this is,
Isn't there a mistake on Cheryl Raymond?
yeah,
Isn't that Creedon?
it was Cheryl Creedon.
Yeah, that's what I
I had
thought.
that, I'll say,
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
Creedon.
you'll have to forgive poor Rebecca, who
Well, I know when you don't know
was
people's
watching it on
names.
TV, who
Yeah.
was watching.
Same thing with the names again, with the
Yeah.
votes. The names are not listed.
Yeah.
She might not be able to tell
Right.
Yeah.
from the video.
oh, boy. Oh, well.
Oh, well, yeah, all well is right.
Where is?
Because unless you did a roll call vote,
Yeah,
you wouldn't be able to go back
and
and
see, because they all had
Yeah,
their
they
back,
don't
so
show.
we'll have to let it go. It
Yeah.
was- Okay.
It's 2
Can I
years ago.
object to me seconding the motion to adjourn? I'm kidding.
Why?
I never do that.
Well, maybe you did.
maybe you did.
Sometimes shake it
In a
up.
moment of weakness, you actually made. the
Mike's
motion.
always willing to
Alright.
stay another 5 minutes.
It could have been a moment of weakness.
Or maybe you really had someplace to go.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve as amended?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? 401. Okay, August 17th, 2018, Mary.
Yes, thank you, I was absent
Yes.
vacation.
Yeah.
It was only a 6-minute meeting.
Yeah.
that
Anybody
was
have
it.
any?
Oh, no, actually, I had a hearing,
Yeah.
that was in the middle of the day, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
I'm abstaining.
And one.
I seconded the motion to adjourn on this meeting, too.
See?
You're on a roll. Okay,
Better
August,
pay attention.
You better do it tonight, too, just to keep it.
I don't know if I can.
I'll beat him to it.
August 20th.
This was a much longer meeting than the previous meeting.
Yes.
I just have, I have one, you need to list me as present. Where that one?
Yep.
I think probably because the 17th I wasn't,
Oh,
so you were
yeah.
just using the 17th, yeah.
Okay,
I have one with the, under the DPW, it says, C. Kavinsky brought up trash removal in the Fisk Hill area. It was Route 15 area.
I remember that.
okay. Whereabouts is that, Chase?
The top of,
I numbered the pages.
They're not numbered yet.
No, we just have to remember to number the pages. Well, it's always
be
easy
the
to
top
find
of
something.
5.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Top of 5?
Yeah,
The first line on the,
first line, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, Fisk was spelt wrong.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, right. I didn't catch that till he just said it, yeah.
well, there's some things that Janae is still learning, so.
Well, I'll tell you, some people still don't know how to spell public house right.
No
I have a
kidding.
couple of
No
typos.
Ks. Yeah, all the things that come in, no K.
Okay?
I know.
And I mean, from department heads, too.
Yeah, exactly.
But, okay, Mary?
On page 2, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th paragraph down, M. Dowling asked why Vermont inspection process is special compared to Mass, asked how the Vermont inspection process is different from, or special compared to, but not asked why. That's okay, I mean, it's just a little thing. Asked how, and then 3 paragraphs down, M. Dowling asked Mr. Cassom what actions he was told to cease and desist. Insert, asked Mr. Cassom what actions he took when he was told to cease and desist.
Okay, then on page 4, that big paragraph at the top, 2, 4, 6, the end of the 7th line, where it says, M. Blanchard stated the Board of Selectmen may make a limit again. No, because we don't set the zinc limits in the water, so just delete that sentence.
Okay.
And then on page 5, the motion, first motion, we put the time in there to continue the public hearing for September 5th, 2018 at 7 o'clock, because we always have to have date and time specific. And that was the motion. Okay, anything else from anybody else? Mary?
I just read over, and tell me if I'm wrong, but is there any mention of Trooper Lawrence telling us that he did not have workers' compensation? I didn't see any reference. If there isn't, we should have a sentence that,
Originally, the fact was that he did not have workers' comp. He had fixed that before he
Yeah.
came to the meeting.
Right.
I know it was in the,
Had it, right.
it was in the documentation that you guys got. I don't remember if he said it during the meeting or not.
well, the trooper said when he went to see him, he didn't have
He said that
workers'
during the meeting?
compensation at the time, right. And then he came forward and said, well, I have it now. And Mary actually asked, well, why didn't you have it before? But it doesn't matter. But Trooper Lawrence did say that he didn't have workers' comp when he spoke with him. He got it later. I mean, I can just remember that. We don't
Yeah.
have to
Well-
add it, but it, to
Well,
me,
it would
was
probably go
important.
that paragraph that begins with Trooper Lawrence, if we put it at the end of that.
Trooper Johnson explained how records and receipts hadn't been kept by Mr. Kessom.
Came forward.
He also asserted that at the time he spoke with him, he did not have
Yeah.
workers' compensation.
No problem.
Okay, anything else? Is there a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, before, this is actually Leon's last Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Oh, that's right.
Because he's not going to be here.
For either, next
Won't be
week.
on the
Next
10th? Oh,
How about when we
He
interview
doesn't-
the question?
oh, right.
No,
Yeah.
he doesn't,
Well, I just want to
I
say
don't want to
again,
hear him moan.
I just want to say again for the record that, Leon, you have been a joy to work with, and I wish you all the best.
I appreciate
And it's certainly
Yes.
our loss in Sturbridge.
Yes, you know the sentiment is widespread.
I thank you very much, and I just want to thank the Board of Selectmen for their confidence in me in the last 3.5 years or so, and I want to thank the residents and the employees of the town as well. It was a pleasure to work with everyone.
I've had a number of residents come to me and say that they thought we had a very good
Yes.
administrator, including residents who sit on other committees. And
Yes, and I've had quite a few people, well, at least 5 or 6 that, what did you do that you're making them leave? So I've had to explain that, no, they came
We worked
looking,
him too hard.
they came looking for him because he's good.
I really have to thank Leon for creating a structure where the selectmen could work together to create or update or organize. He created the structure and organization so that we could, do things like actually think about policies that the Board of Selectmen have and goals and objectives, and, that's very important. And, those things are often, and I've seen over the years in many communities, not done because of the day-to-day mess that everybody tries to get through and slog through. So thank you for helping us do stuff that are over and above, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We're a better town, for sure.
You're welcome.
Okay, Priscilla?
Motion to adjourn?
Michael?
Michael?
No, you're going to make me second. Okay, I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 5-0. I didn't bother with